Good evening. At this time, I'd like to call the May 8th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to order. We have with us tonight Mr. Floyd Thomas, Mr. Jeff Black, Mr. Jeff Seeley, Mr. Reginald Underwood, and Mr. Clay Forehand. I am Nancy Long, and we welcome you all here tonight. At this time, Mr. Thomas, would you mind doing invocation? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you. We'll have invocation, stand for invocation, and pledge of allegiance, please.
Let us pray. Dear Father God, we come before you this day, thanking you for the blessings of this day, thanking you for the fellowship of being in Caroline County. And now as we bow our heads, we humbly submit to you. As we close our eyes, we ask that you would open them to things that you want. And we ask you to touch our hearts so that we may do right for all that's concerned. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
At this time, we'll have opening board comments. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We only had one meeting in April, and I wanted to acknowledge that April 23rd was actually the first Barbara Johns Day. And for those of you that don't know, she was the 16-year-old leader who led the student walkout in Prince Edward, Virginia, that became part of the Supreme Court. Brown versus the Board of Education Supreme Court decision. And with that, I wanted to again commend all of our young high school students who were part of the tribute to the Parkland students. And the other issue I have is, I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, but I wanted to make sure I expressed now my position on the school funding for this year. And I have personally, although I'm only one supervisor, I have personally committed to providing the $650,000 that was the beginning of the school's salary study that we discussed before. I'd actually discussed this with my school board representative and actually the school superintendent. And to make sure the Board of Supervisors actually has no real authority to make sure that any commitment or additional funding we give will actually go to the salary study. That has been and always will be part of the school board's responsibility, but again, I've made that commitment to at least try to get the school started on the salary study. But my concerns with the actual school budget, and I'm sure we'll discuss it again as I said, is when we attended a work session for the Board of Supervisors, the school finance director was there, and she mentioned the fact that the health insurance had increased by $1.2 million. And the Board of Supervisors, even if they fully funded the budget, some of that cost would still be passed on to teachers and staff. And personally, I felt that was unacceptable. And I asked, why didn't the school board rebid their health insurance when they knew it was going up $1.2 million? And the answer I got was, it's not a good idea to rebid when costs go up. To me, that wasn't logical, because if you don't rebid when costs go up, when do you rebid? But if the school board decides to rebid that, it's possible that $500,000 or $600,000 could be added into teacher raises. And the last point on that note is we held a public hearing, and along with the rest of the board, we received comments on teacher salaries and staff. And as I stated before, I do agree with that. And I was in particular moved by a young lady, 12-year-old Miss Hart, who said we need to make sure we keep our teachers. But none of the emails or later conversations I got mentioned the number of people in the central office. Not one. Or keeping them. Actually, they mentioned that the staff seemed to be a little large. And as our budgets and the newspaper have reported, the administrative budget has almost doubled in the last few years. We still have the same number of students and the same number of teachers, but the central budget office has increased by over $500,000. Not one comment, not one email, not one conversation suggested that we should have twice as many people in the central office. And therefore, I'm going to suggest that we use some of that money to provide for teacher raises and staff salary. That's it, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Black, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do. I just have kind of piggyback a little bit, and we'll talk about the schools a little bit later on, about the budget. One of the things, and it's 5-6 years ago when I was elected, I was coming into a time frame when the county was actually had budget shortfalls. We had to make decisions on how we could cut $400,000, $500,000 from a budget. We are actually in an opposite situation now, thanks to, in large part, to Mr. Cully and the board being much more conservative with how money is spent. I would like to commend Mr. Cully on his budgeting and the budget that he presented to us. I'd also like to commend Chief Loftus. Last year, Chief Loftus, Mr. Thomas and I had actually been talking about adding a fire station down in the Carmel Church area because the Company 2, which is the Ladysmith Fire and Rescue, they have the largest stretch on 95 to cover. And Chief Loftus came to us and actually said, you know, that's not actually wise right now. The decision is I need to fully staff what I've got now. And so he said, he gave us a number of 19 fire and EMS that he's going to need. And he said, but I'm going to work with you guys, and I'm going to make sure that gradually we add those fire and EMS. So he understood there's a giant need in the county, but he also understood our budgetary concerns. So last year we added 6. This year we're adding 3 more. So I can't thank Chief Loftus enough for understanding that, you know, sometimes you can't always get what you want right away. So I do appreciate that, and we really do appreciate, and we need to keep on working on getting to that number 19. So thank you.
Mr. Seeley, do you have anything?
Madam Chair, I'm going to reserve my comments until the appropriate agenda item presents itself.
Mr. Underwood?
Madam Chair, I just have one. I'd like to thank Mr. Cully and Mr. Whiteman for attending my constituent meeting last month. I think it was a very productive meeting, and looking forward to our next meeting. We talked about the budget, taxes, and it was probably the largest meeting that we've had in a while. So I think citizens are interested in what we're doing, and I appreciate them showing up. So thank you, Mr. Cully and Mr. Whiteman, for being there for my support.
Mr. Forehand?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I got a few items. One, had the privilege of attending the Little League opening day. And I see we have a representative down there. That was an excellent event, really a display of how many youth and coaches and volunteers we have in this organization that are working towards the benefit of the children in Caroline County. So thank you, it was a great event. Also, Ladysmith Day was this past Saturday, and from all indications, it was a success. I was not able to attend due to a plethora of children's sports activities within my realm of responsibility. But again, thank you for the organizers for that. It's a great community event. Thirdly, Dr. Parker, as most folks know, Dr. Parker, the superintendent of schools, has announced his leaving. There's been a little bit of implication that because we weren't forthcoming with funds that prompted his exit from the county. I personally don't believe that as a factor. If anyone knows Dr. Parker, they know he's a quality individual. I know and respect him, and I think this is a natural progression of his career that he's pursuing, and I fully support him in that endeavor. We'd hoped to have him longer, but we're thankful for the time that we did have him. And lastly, there is, on social media, there is a sponsored ad that indicates that Caroline County is giving away free solar panels at no cost. I kind of ignored it until local people started commenting on it and thumbs up, and comments saying, "Oh Lord, what are they doing now?" Things like that. And I wanted to assure everyone that this is not a Caroline County program. It appears to be a title that's called clickbait. They want you to enter this website, and then they'll see if you qualify for some national program of some sort, but it has no affiliation with Caroline County whatsoever. So just want to get that on the record and before we go too far. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. I want to thank Mr. Forehand for covering the opening of the fire school. For me, I had to work that morning, so I missed that, and I missed the opening of the Little League. But I did get to go to the state dinner that night, and that was pretty nice. And we had a good time. I also want to thank the first responders, Port Royal and Bowling Green. We had a accident up on the river this weekend, and their response time was wonderful, and we appreciate that. I attended Unity Day on Saturday. Nice idea, good program, a lot of work went into it. We're going to work harder on getting more people out and getting the word spread further next year. But there was some really good music for any of you that can make it next year. I've also spent some time with board members on the George Washington Regional Commission this month. Tim Ware is retiring, and we had to narrow down a stack of interviews. So after 2 days of Skype interviews and 2 days of in-person interviews with the final candidates, I think we have an offer made, and George Washington Regional Commission, I think, will have a good leader. And we hope to be able to announce that person's name at our next meeting. And finally, I just want to thank everyone for their participation. Budget time's never good. It's always hard. We all have our Christmas wish list, but can't have it all. We have to take that dollar bill and divide it up as best we can, and I think this board's done a good job of doing that. We will continue to support the schools as best we can, but as I said, we don't print the money. That money comes out of everybody's pocket, and it has to take care of everybody. And we will do the best that we can, and I think that's what we have done. And we will get into that more this evening at budget time. But I appreciate everybody's patience, and actually on social media or anything, please look at facts. Don't just believe it because it's out there. Do your own research. Thank you. All right, at this time, we are going to are there any amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I do have one. I do not see my social services board person on the agenda tonight. And I know that,
I thought it was under appointments.
oh, it's not on this agenda. It just says Western Caroline here, but it should be Reedy Church in Western.
Do we have new ones? Because I still have my old ones. Do you have new ones? No. Okay. All right. So we're going to add Reedy Church.
It's on the, okay, thank you.
It's in the package. Okay.
This is
Just
one I
not
got
on
on
the
the back.
blue sheet. All right.
Okay, okay. It's on my computer. Gotcha. Thank you. I was just looking at the paper copy. Gotcha.
Are there, I have one addition to the consent agenda, and that is the Loving announcement for the dedication for the Loving marker. Can we put that on consent, or would you prefer it on unfinished? Consent? We'll make that 3F. And would that be under unfinished business, correct? And under unfinished business, I'd like to also add a number 11, and that would be, I'd like to talk about the Vietnam plaque funding that we discussed last month. I'm sorry, 11, let's see, 10B, let's make it 10B under unfinished. Any other changes or additions to the agenda?
Motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second? So moved. All right, at this time,
You going to vote?
oh, thank you. That's the second time I've done that in a row. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So we're going to have to add that to the agenda after the, all right. So that brings us to presentations. Our first presentation tonight is one I've been looking forward to doing. It has been my pleasure, my honor to spend time the past 2 or 3 years up at Upper Caroline Fire Department when they have their yearly Mattaponi Hunt Club for our warriors and veterans. It's nice to be with neighbors, to be with our volunteers, to be with our veterans. And one year I got to take my son, who serves in the military, with me, and he knew some of the people there, and he had a really good time. And now every year he asks me, when is it? So he could beat his dad out and going with me. But so it's a wonderful thing that they do, and Quantico is just down the road. I think a lot of the people come from down at that area. And it's just wonderful to see the support and their spirits lifted when they're there. So at this time, I'm going to read it, and then we'll go to the front for pictures, Mr. Cully. Okay, and then everybody from because we got a big group that I'm lucky to have here tonight from Mattaponi and from the fire department. So this is how the resolution reads. A resolution of appreciation for the Mattaponi Hunt Club and Upper Caroline Volunteer Fire Department for organizing and hosting the 10th Warrior Veterans Appreciation Hunt. Whereas, in furtherance of the important mission of supporting our veterans, the Mattaponi Hunt Club and Upper Caroline Volunteer Fire Department have forged a partnership to organize, host, and conduct a hunt for Warriors veterans each year since 2008. And whereas the itinerary for the hunt is very detailed, beginning on Friday afternoon when the warriors assemble at the fire department and are taken to a local campground where they will stay overnight, and whereas the warriors are then brought back to the fire department on Friday night for a pizza and salad supper and are assigned to a hunt club member who will accompany them to the hunt and remain with them throughout the day. And whereas at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning, breakfast is served, and the Hunt Club Auxiliary prepares a bagged lunch for the warriors to enjoy during the hunt. And whereas on Saturday evening, a banquet attended by approximately 180 people is held to enjoy a delicious meal and fellowship. And the warriors are recognized and presented with certificates of honorary membership in Upper Caroline Volunteer Fire Department. And whereas the fire department calls the name of every warrior who has participated in the hunt since its inception as part of its We Will Not Forget You program. And the name of every honorary member of the department is etched on a plate that hangs on the station wall. And whereas through donations of meals, supplies, hunting grounds, campsites, and much more, each warrior is able to participate in the hunt at no cost, and remaining funds donated are then distributed as prizes for drawings. And whereas all the volunteered time and dedicated efforts of the Mattaponi Hunt Club and Upper Caroline Volunteer Fire Department members are a result of their sincere respect and admiration for our warriors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby expresses its deep appreciation to the Mattaponi Hunt Club and Upper Caroline Volunteer Fire Department for their thoughtful and valuable work in assisting our warriors who have sacrificed so much for our nation. Would you all please stand? Come on, Dad, sit down. David, where do you want us? ready. Our next presentation is in honor of an anniversary for Mount Salem Church. And this falls in Mr. Underwood's district, so we're going to let him read the resolution tonight.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Board members, I attended the 135th anniversary of Mount Salem Baptist Church a couple weeks ago. It was a pleasure to be in the midst of such godly people and people who are really doing the right thing. I'm going to read the resolution, but I want it to be noted that although this is their 135th anniversary, the inception of this church was actually in 1833. So it was actually 185 years of inception from this church. So I wanted to make that known. The resolution reads as follows. A resolution celebrating the 185th anniversary of Mount Salem Baptist Church. Whereas Mount Salem Baptist Church has been a pillar of the Caroline County community since its inception in 1833, and whereas part of the community outreach and missionary ministry, the church's loving members provide Thanksgiving baskets to the community, as well as breakfast on Christmas Day, And whereas Reverend Dr. Bernard P. Good and the members of the church are honored to be the founders of the Cancer Care Ministry of Caroline and vicinity in partnership with the Cancer Treatment Center of America. And whereas the Cancer Care Ministry is a group of churches trying to make a difference in the lives of cancer patients as well as their families, both locally and globally, through empowering churches and communities in knowledge of cancer awareness. Whereas during the long history of Mount Salem Baptist Church has been a steadfast and positive influence on the lives of members of its congregation and has helped make Caroline County a better place to live, truly achieving the focus of its ministry, not being a mega church, but a mega ministry to our community. And whereas Caroline County wishes to honor the church's history and accomplishments on this special occasion, and thank its members for their many contributions to Caroline County throughout the years. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby extend its heartfelt congratulations to Mount Salem Baptist Church on the occasion of its 185th anniversary and sends its best wishes for much continued success in the years to come. Adopted this 8th day of May, 2018. Reverend Good, if you would come forward. Amen.
Either side, doesn't matter. Should, our next recognition tonight is for our yearly Crime Stoppers poster contest to announce the winner, and so we can see the lovely posters. So, Sheriff Lippa, nice to see you up on your feet.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. It gives me great honor and privilege. As you said, the annual art award for the Metro Richmond Crime Stoppers. And I'm going to have Mr. Danny Carter, who's a businessman, obviously, in Caroline, that sits on the board down there at Crime Stoppers for us. And prior to then, I'm going to bring up Miss Delaney Warner and her mom. Come on up here. And then afterwards, after Mr. Carter presents that, we'd like to come up there for a picture, and we'll get Major Moser and our art teacher to join us. So, Mr. Carter and mom.
Good evening. As the Caroline County representative on the board for the Richmond Crime Stoppers, I'm pretty proud of the work that they do there. It's an all-volunteer board. All of the funding for the crime tips that come in that hopefully solve crimes is all generated by donations, so there's no taxpayer dollars that go into this at all. One of the things they do is the Crime Stoppers does a lot of social media advertising, things of this nature, in hopes of getting people to communicate with the law enforcement jurisdictions so that crimes can be solved. And having been on the board now for shade over a year, I've noticed that there have been some pretty serious crimes solved because of tips that come in on the hotlines and through the social media posts that they have out there. But one of the things that the board put in place many years ago was a way to have, kids have positive interactions with law enforcement. And one of those was a poster contest. And what happens with this particular contest is there is one poster selected from each jurisdiction, each county, city of Richmond, and they're brought into the board, and then we all get to go up there and take a look and pick the one that we choose, we feel like is the best. One with most votes is actually selected and then printed and distributed. Here in Caroline, we are very fortunate to have this young lady prepare one that was all hand done. No computer graphics, which says a whole lot. I've been there. But Delaney Warner was selected for the Caroline County entry in the contest, and we give credit to Travis Nutter for poster, framing it so that she can have something to hang on a wall. As also part of the award, Ms. Warner gets a check for $500 from the Richmond Crime Stoppers, I guess to spend any way you want. But we're very proud of her. Wish you the best in the future. She says she wants to be a lawyer. I don't know. So here you go. Here's that, and I wish you the best, young lady.
Mr. Carter?
Yes.
If you would hold that up so we can all see that?
We're going to come up.
Okay.
Can you turn it around so
Yeah, let me show it
everyone
to you.
else
Let
can
me
see
show it to you. Yeah, now. All right, let's go up and get your picture taken. Do you have anything?
Thank you so much. And thank you to my art teacher for helping me out with my skill in school and always keeping me encouraged. That's why I'm here. Thank you so much.
You want to take a picture?
Did you catch her name?
keep it. I don't. Gentlemen, we have an item that was left off of the agenda that I was not aware of, and that is the Beta Club is here, and they have testing tomorrow. And so if Mr. Nelson doesn't mind waiting a few minutes, does the board have any objection to letting the Beta Club go now so that these children can get back home? All right, come on up, Beta Club. Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you as well, Mr. Nelson. Chairperson Long, Vice Chair Forehand, the rest of the board, thank you for allowing us to come and talk to you once again. As you know, our betas have worked really hard in this county to bring service projects to the community and to help others in the county when they need help and to just make it a better place for all. So I have a couple of betas here that want to speak to you tonight as we work towards our convention campaign.
Good evening, Board. My name is Jaden Richardson, and I am our club treasurer. Thank you for letting me speak to you this evening. I would like to share some of the projects that Beta has done this year. We have made blankets for our seniors, visited the nursing home, and helped with Head Start. We also have welcomed visitors and new students to our school, assisted our principals with projects, and donated money to charities, just to name a few things. Thank you for supporting our Beta clubs in the past.
Hello, my name is May Davis McManus, and I attend Bowling Green Elementary with Jaden. As the vice president of our club, I have been especially excited to show the state how successful our Beta Club has been this year. Between all 3 elementary schools, we won 21 state awards this past state convention. The national convention is in Savannah, Georgia this year, and we would like to bring more awards back to Caroline County. Our group was given a special invitation by the Beta Council to attend the national convention this year. With a cost of $1,050 per child, we have a large amount of money to raise. And we have 44 students eligible. Would you please help us get to the nationals again so we can help serve Caroline and show how special our community is? Thank you.
Thank you very much. What is the date of the convention?
June 12th.
We leave on June the 12th and we come back on the 7th.
Thank you very much.
How much do you have so far?
About $15,000.
You have 15,000. And you want to send 44 people?
Mm-hmm.
How much is that? 15 times 1,000, or 44 times 1,000? How much is that?
44,000.
You knew that.
And how old are you guys? I know you're not supposed to ask a lady her age, but how old are you guys?
11.
You're 11 too, young lady? Wow, okay. Thank you.
Do you have any further questions?
No, ma'am, we will put it on our agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, what did we do last time? Last year, I think we gave half and the school board gave the other half. Is that what happened?
I can't
Right.
remember how
We gave
much.
8 and challenged them for 8.
They got more this time. How many did you send last year?
Last year we sent 32. Last year we came and we've actually come to, this is our 3rd time coming before the board. You did the challenge the first year with the school board, who we'll be talking to next week. Last year we came before the board and the other schools we found out afterwards were not fully funded either, so the board gave us $5,000 last year, and we split it between all of the schools, and so we went ahead and gave another $1,000 to the middle school and took another $1,000 of it and gave it to the high school to help them out as well.
You're 29,000 short.
Right now, we are. We're still working, though. We're working very hard. Car washes, got a car wash coming up in Ladysmith in a couple weeks.
And we have one of your betas stand up in church and do the bit and ask for donations, and I know she's getting quite a few, so she had things to sell and things to do.
We have a spaghetti dinner tomorrow night in Ladysmith at Wright's Chapel. It's $10 a plate for those who would like to come out. Yeah, lots of things. The betas are working very hard. We're not just looking for donations. They're working hard to get where they're going.
Good for you. Good things are worth working for.
Yes, they are, absolutely.
Good job, girls.
All right, thank you.
What were the names again?
This is May Davis McManus
May Davis
and Jaden Richardson.
and Jaden Richardson. Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well done, ladies. Thank you.
Well, we'd
Do
like
we
to
wanna
move
go
if we
ahead?
could.
You want to meet the same we did last year, 5,000?
It was my suggestion. Mr. Thomas and I were talking, and we kind of figured we could challenge we'll take the lead on this, and we'll challenge the school board, and I'd like to make a motion to give them $10,000 because they got 44.
29. I'll second that.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. And we hope you'll share again this year.
We absolutely will. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You give it to me.
Mr. Nelson,
You got $10,000 we can borrow? I was getting ready to come ask for some myself.
You need to bring the elementary school kids with you.
Oh, that's what I need? Okay. Good afternoon, good evening, members of the board. I'm here to give you your transportation briefing for your quarterly briefing. I'll start with some of the updates from some of the things that were requested at the last meeting I was at. Mr. Black, you had requested us to look at the Goose Hill Road, some of the pavement conditions which I rode. They were pretty bad. Repairs are underway. We have state forces trying to rebuild that road as we speak. Mr. Seeley, you had contacted me regarding Edgar Road drainage concerns. Again, state forces have gone out and cleaned out one pipe. We've called USDA. They're going to try to trap the beavers. Once the beavers have been trapped and removed, we'll clear out the other pipe.
But you remember last time we did Edgar Road and then the road that's behind it, because actually that's a two-stage,
You talking about right there by Camp 30?
yes.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do both, it's futile.
So yeah, USDA will be working to try to remove beavers from
Both those places?
Yeah.
Because they dug out one of those. I've got the pictures where they dug out one pipe the water's going through.
Yeah, that's what I said. They've
Okay.
cleaned out one, but it kind of, if we clean it out and we don't remove the beavers, we'll be back in another 4 to 5 weeks.
How long do you think it'll take to get the beavers out?
USDA, they're on our contract. I know they removed some in Spotsylvania at the 126 area. It took them maybe 4 or 5 weeks to get them. So,
That's not it's going to take some time because I'm sure there's more than one or two.
oh, I'm sure. When I was down there in the pipe last time, you could just hear them there's plenty of beavers down there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Underwood, at the last meeting, you had asked us to look at the potential of removing the passing zones right there on Route 30, just east of 301. We looked at that. Traffic engineering looked at some data on about 1.25 miles of that roadway, and we did not see anything compelling that would cause us to remove that speed zone. Not the speed zone, but the passing zone. There was no history of any crashes resulting in people passing or anything of that nature. So unless you've got some other additional information.
You must have took Stevie Wonder's brother with you. Or
Well, we try to use data to make the decision. So, visually looking at it, you'll just see cars passing. But if people are passing and there are no accidents, then what's the issue?
So you're saying it's going to take an accident or some tragedy before
What
we
I'm,
do something?
What I'm saying is that we've got a passing zone that is safe.
I'm going to continue to disagree, Mr. Nelson, but I appreciate it.
If you've got any other information that we can utilize to try to make a decision that's in your favor, pass it along. We also got some, I guess, some requests from you from your constituents meeting regarding potholes and various other things, and my maintenance staff is taking care of that stuff.
I drove Reedy Church and, Ruther Glen Road today, and it's just as bad as ever.
Okay, I will make sure they.
Yeah, I think they didn't see anything either.
Well, no, they put it's a work order in, but they have not gotten to it yet.
Oh,
so they're,
thank you.
They're
Okay.
working through it.
Good clarification.
Yes. All right. Mr. Forehand, you had access to look at Direct Road and the feasibility of a center line. Traffic engineering went out and looked at it. The roadway's not consistently 18 feet, so we can't really justify putting it in the sections that are 18, so we don't recommend putting a center line there now. As long you had access, well, the speed limits on 301. So we put the 35 mile per hour zone up. Unbeknownst to me, there was an issue with the sketch, which I think we had looked at the sketch and everything was good, but when they went out to install it, they figured out there were some issues with the sketch. So traffic engineering went back and revised the sketches, and additional signs were put up May 1st. So everything should be fine on 17 and 301 now.
So does that mean when I go home tonight, because I haven't come that way for a little while, I'm going to be at 35 going through the intersection
Down the
instead of
hill.
45? Like it
Coming down
was?
the hill, you should have 35
Okay.
mile per hour signs now.
All right, thank you. Well, we just had two speed limits in different directions, which gave northbound a little bit of advantage to
Yeah.
those going south.
Yeah. So that should be rectified.
Okay, thank you. I'll watch when I go home tonight.
Also, to give you an update, at the 301-17 signal, we're working on getting the flashing yellow arrow there and the emergency vehicle preemption, which should be happening, I believe, on the week of May 30th, weather permitting. So that should be coming up before the end of the month.
And where are we on Monarchy Road?
They're already started.
Okay.
So they're out there. I think the ditches have started being pulled. They're going to start replacing some of the driveway culverts. So that project's ongoing right now.
Okay, and the bridge?
Contractor's still out there working.
He's doing a nice job. Do you know about how much longer?
I have not gotten an update on how much longer.
Okay, that's fine. They're
Yeah.
doing well with the traffic control.
Yeah,
They're
so I
being
don't
very
think, I haven't heard
considerate.
any complaints from anybody regarding the traffic control out there, but he's still working.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Mr. Thomas, there was a request for us to complete the safety study on Route 639 between 95 and 207. We've got that all squared away. We got with the one property owner who we hadn't got the right of entry from, so all the trees have been removed that were identified.
They've been removed already?
Yep. There's also the request for no littering signs on Coolwater Drive. We've already ordered the signs. We're just waiting for them to be fabricated so we can put them up. Now I can just go into some of the overall.
Well, I had a couple more, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
But the Bull Church Run Speed Study,
Yes.
that's a new thing, so that's not on what you're doing, but
But
that's
no,
something you're working on?
We've already got it. They sent me some comments back earlier this week. I did not put it in here because I need some clarification on the stuff that they told me.
Okay, and one more thing, since we're ordering no littering signs, I'm not asking for this one, but a constituent right across the street said, we need no littering signs on Milford Street in 207. It appears that as everyone comes from a fast food restaurant, they choose to dispose of the wrapper of whatever they've eaten. And as you're going from McDonald's towards 95, when you make the left on Milford Street,
Yeah.
there appears to be a lot of McDonald's information
Okay.
in that area. So is it possible I could get one of those?
I'll have traffic engineering look at it to see if
Okay.
if it warrants the sign.
Oh, I'm sure it warrants it.
Okay. But yeah, we'll look at it.
Okay, thank you. And the other one I asked was for Mr. Underwood. I'd gone to Oxford Mount Zion Church, and they asked me if we could do the paving there, and you said you'd work on that.
Said we'd try to work on that for 2019.
Okay, that's a couple of years from now. Okay, thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Nelson, do you want other items now, or do you want to finish?
Oh, you all can go ahead.
All right. I was going to talk about the preliminary engineering and construction projects, but
I'll let you finish.
Okay.
Catch it.
for preliminary engineering, as you know, we had the public hearing for the Route 639 widening project on April 18th. There was a pretty good turnout for that project. Overall, except for maybe one potential issue, everything went well with that. The project right-of-way is scheduled to begin in 2019, and the project will be advertised the last quarter of 2021 with construction beginning in 2022. The next project we've got in the county that's coming open for preliminary engineering charges is the Route 639 Charlesburg safety improvements. That was around 2 of smart scale. That project is slated to begin the design work in July, and the project will be advertised about the same time the other 639 widening project is. For construction projects, we've got the ongoing project with Menarche Road, so they've already begun that, and we should have it completed this summer. And for the flashing yellow arrow upgrades, we're still planning to make those upgrades on Route 207 at Welcome Way and Enterprise Parkway. And once we have a schedule for that, we'll do public communications and put up message boards to let people know what's going on.
Is there a way to stop those?
Is there any way to stop them?
Yeah, the flashing yellow.
No.
You're not the one making the decision to put those up there.
It is an initiative statewide.
How can I get to be last on the statewide initiative?
So you're trying to stop progress?
I'm just trying to stop stupidity. You know, we've said that. It's not. I'm not insulting you, but I've said it's a stupid idea because when people see a yellow light, they're trying to go through it as fast as they can. And when it's a blinking yellow light, they don't really know traffic's coming at them.
Well, there's signage that can help with that.
And I've shown you pictures of the signs that have fallen down in Fredericksburg where they are. How can I be last? I mean,
you may end up being last on this contract, but I don't think you will be. We've identified these as areas where we need to have these flashing yellow arrows to provide relief.
Is there some way I could get those? Is there some way that I could get those after you do the paving on Zion Road?
No, through different funds of money. And I'm going to talk about money here after you all talk to me.
But I really would like to be last. Can I not? Can I not be first?
You're not first. We've had upgrades throughout.
Can I not be second? Can I be last?
You're not second either.
Can I be last?
You're going to be last on this contract. There's been other areas. I mean, Nancy's going to get some important role before you.
And she will soon say how dangerous that is. Sheriff, you think it was dangerous, right? You said before it was. Well, that was a state trooper that said it was. Okay. I'd like to be last, Mr. Nelson, but I see I'm fighting a losing battle here.
Duly noted.
But thank you for what you do. You've been great. I don't know who makes that decision, but it's not smart. Okay. But you've been great.
Thank you. Next thing, we had a public hearing for the Route 301-207 corridor here in this building on last week. So the comments are being reviewed right now, and the study's being finalized for the recommendations that were presented. That concludes my report. You all have anything for me? Yes.
A couple items. Some comments came in regarding the 639 widening. I know the comment period closed on the 28th.
Yes.
Is there opportunity for members of the board to make comment still? Or what is the process? So that was public comment. Are we considered public if we have suggestions?
You very much are, but I mean, you can give me any suggestions you want for the project.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Durrett Road, we had spoken about the parking, the tractor trailers. The neighborhood is not inclined to putting signs up, so I'm going to ask if you could.
Okay.
There's only one area, probably 2 signs would do it. It's very obvious where they are, and they're still tearing the road up.
Okay.
But, the other thing is Lake Caroline access. We had spoken about that previously.
Yep.
I came by there on Saturday, coming back from one of the many child sporting events that I was at on that day, and there was stage traffic in Route 1, both north and south. There are no signs going south on Route 1 saying look out for traffic. Like I mentioned before, the ones going north are a little dated. They're a few more feet off the roadway. Yeah. And I saw some spinners. The orange And again, it's just an idea. They're looking for some sort of enhancement. You may already have it in the works. I know we'd spoken about it a while
we've
back.
already ordered the signs, and we ran into this issue with the spinners because we wanted to put the spinners on the signs in Port Royal for the speed limit. I can't get those spinners anymore. So,
Okay.
I mean, I can put flags on them, which
Twirly wheels,
kind of ugly, but
solar lights. I don't know. I'm just looking for anything to help out because they're concerned.
Okay.
And we're coming up on summer where they're really, the weekend traffic is really hairy. So, okay. That's all I got. Thank you.
All right.
Mr.
Nelson,
Black?
Thank you. I just got a couple of questions. First of all, I want to thank you on what you're doing out there on Goose Hill. Can you just send me an email on like the time, what they're doing at the time? I would appreciate that as far as what's going on, because I did some work, and I don't know, I haven't been back out there this week, but that road was terrible. I mean, it was awful.
it was.
And so I really appreciate what you guys are doing, because we had talked about a timetable like it was going to be after July 1st, and then now it's, you know, bumped up before the fiscal year. So I do appreciate that. We had talked about the at the Ladysmith Whiting about possibly bumping up that Ladysmith Road project a little bit. You had said that's a possibility. Is that still a possibility?
Actually, I think you committed to it. You bring it a year
Yeah,
and a half
that's
early.
exactly right.
You
were
all
saying-
won't get
I think
me.
you said something about, I think you said something about a year to 2 years.
No, I did not. The right-of-way phase is what really takes a long time on these projects. So, I mean, it's not like we're dragging our feet to move this thing, but we have to negotiate right-of-way with all the property owners, which can be a lengthy process.
Right.
So, I mean, we're really bound to it. I mean, as of right now, we're looking at, we can advance it, but I don't think it's going to help you any because we're looking at the fourth quarter of 2021. You're going to advertise it, bid it, get bids back. A contractor's not going to start until the weather breaks anyway. So I don't think you're going to get anything unless you can substantially move the project up by 8 to 10 months, which I don't think is realistic right now with the right-of-way. And I mean, you saw all the people that showed up for the public hearing, which they're probably going to be a lengthy right-of-way phase.
So what you're saying is you can do it.
I will try.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
You
I
can use the
appreciate
money from those yellow flashing
There you go.
signs. for
Different pot of money.
And Mr. Nelson, I think Mr. Black missed the memo. The Goose Hill Road was part of the conversion back to gravel road, right?
Yeah, I mean, he called me and I was like, man, Jeff's got another crazy idea about Goose Hill Road. And I rode it, I'm like, wow, this is really bad. The logging trucks had essentially destroyed the entire road. And we had no recourse but to rebuild the road. So state forces is doing it. That's why it's going to take a little bit longer because they've got that issue. They've got issues for Mr. Underwood to handle. So they're kind of all over, and they got issues for Mr. Seeley to handle too.
The next question I had is on the proposed, I think you understood at the public hearing what the concerns were for, especially for one particular entity that was a major concern. Are there multiple solutions to that in case one doesn't work out?
Are there multiple?
So, in other words, are there multiple ways to get that the church access if one way that does not work out, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I think that would depend greatly on the efforts of the church, because I think the one alternative, as in having access off of route of 639, is not about. That's the one option that's not about. So options off of other roadways back there, if they can work those details out, yes, but the department can't work those details out.
Is there a way, and I think Mr. Forehand would be in favor, is there a way at some point over the summer, I mean, I don't think we're in any hurry, but in the next couple of months, that we could actually set up a meeting where maybe Mr. Forehand, myself, the pastor of the church, and some other individuals could be at a meeting where we could talk about some alternatives? Is that a possibility for that solution?
Just to be clear, right-of-way does not start on that project until 2019.
I understand. Okay.
So you're saying there's plenty of time?
I'm saying there's plenty of time for the church to think about how they can achieve access.
Do they understand that they're in the driver's seat on this, or do they think, because I think there was confusion on the church as to who's really in charge, because I think they think the county, I think they're confused to who's really in charge of whether it be them, the county, or you guys. And that was my understanding in talking to some of the individuals from the church.
Well, I think at the public hearing, they got contact cards from people that they probably should reach out to if they have those questions.
Is there a possibility that you could recontact them to make sure? Because in talking to some of the individuals, I'm saying, and talking to some of the individuals when I saw them over the weekend, that was what was said to me.
And I just will be clear that the department cannot negotiate on behalf of a property owner
Right.
for a right-of-way.
Right.
So, I mean, it's very difficult. So I think the church needs to explore their options of what they are, and in 2019, when they are approached, they need to have their recommendations if there are any. I can't solve the problem for them.
Okay. And then I have one last, and then I'll be done. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here for just a second, because there are some people, obviously when you do a divided highway, in any sort of divided highway, there's going to be a block to certain business access. I'm just curious as to, I mean, everyone wants the business access to their business, and then you don't have a divided highway anymore at all. What is the whole reason, and maybe when this project was designed, for the divided highway part of it? I mean, that's...
So it was a smart scale application.
Right.
There was an endeavor that did a corridor study that the county was involved in to say, how do we want to set this corridor up for the future to provide maximum throughput and establish the access points.
Okay.
That study was used and referenced in the application, which allowed you to get the funds for the project.
I got you. So, okay.
If you change that,
Right.
we went through this further north of you all in Spotsylvania, where everybody passed the resolution to adopt a corridor management study, access management, got the funds, and now all of a sudden you want to change it. Well, if you change it, you're at risk of losing your money.
Yep. Yeah, that ain't happening. Okay. So, all right. I appreciate that, kind of shed some light on it. I appreciate it, Mr. Nelson. I really do appreciate it. I mean, I know you're in a catch-22, but please, some of us are too, because we're getting phone calls and so forth. And, you know, we want to expand the highway for the purpose of traffic and future business. I mean, we need it. But, you know, there's some like minor roadblocks here that we need to try to get over as well. All right, thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Nelson, I'm not going to talk about the flashing yellow lights and how I think that's an accident waiting to happen, but the Exxon station, we've talked about 207 and the intersection where the Exxon station is between the truck stop.
Yes.
That was supposed to be a right-in, right-out, and I think sometime before you got here, it was the board at that time's understanding that VDOT would make it a right-in, right-out, so people wouldn't leave the truck stop and then cut through the gas station. Is it possible we can put that on the record and make it a right-in, right-out? And
Yeah. I've asked traffic engineering to look at that, and I've asked also some people to try to figure out if they have any history on this, because I don't know where this came from, but we're looking at it.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, the sheriff has come to me and asked about that issue there too.
Yeah, it's
because
definitely
people are
before your
cutting
time. And the sheriff said, someone from VDOT said it was the county board's decision to not allow a right turn out of there. But I was here when that decision was made, and it was supposed to be right in, right out. We were just waiting for VDOT to do a second phase. So I know how good you are and how great you've
But
done.
I mean, the one part that doesn't make sense is I don't know why we would install it that way if we in turn would then go out and tear it out. That makes no sense.
I refuse to answer that question on the grounds that I may say something really insulting.
Okay.
Sort of like my 35-45 intersection, but mine's a lot easier to fix. Still, I do want you to know that I could not be here for the public hearing. I thank Mr. Thomas for showing up and covering that. But I did go over to King George, because that fit my schedule better.
Yes.
So I did do that, and appreciate everything you do for us. Anybody got anything else?
And the point on that, and I'm glad you did mention that. So we've attended both of your citizens' meetings. The point that people need to understand is none of this has been financed. There are no funds for it. This is just VDOT getting out ahead of things and trying to make sure they understand what concerns are.
The real intent is to give you, the county, and King George, the county, the tools to help manage the corridor in the future.
Mr. Black?
Just one quick thing I completely forgot. We're still working with Mr. Schiebel, right, as far as the other program that we were talking about before?
Adopt a Highway?
Yes, the Adopt a
Yes.
Highway.
Yes.
Okay. and we
I've
will-
got everything from him. He's waiting on me now.
Perfect.
in
Thank
my
you.
court.
All right, thank you.
So,
Yes, thank you so much for everything you do,
He'll
really.
be back up because we have the 6-year plan. You gonna hang around for that?
yeah, I have no choice. I did want to bring up one thing. I've talked to my other boards about this, and I kind of mentioned this to Mr. Black, that our maintenance budget, which is the money I use to patch your potholes, fix bridges, get rid of beavers, it's been essentially level funded. Well, I get additional 20 miles of roadway a year. So the ability for me to go out and handle things as expeditiously as I have is somewhat dwindling away, and I'm really having to prioritize where I'm at. Like Goose Hill was a major public safety issue. I had no choice to fix it, and I may overspend this fiscal year because of it. But what I'm just letting everybody know is if you hear a no come from Sean, it's not because I don't want to do it. It's really because fiscally I can't do it. So I'm just letting you all know up front here, in front of everybody, that I may be saying no. That's all I've got.
We understand.
He's just kidding.
I'm not.
He's just kidding. Sorry, that was me.
All right, this brings us to appointments. First up is Board of Zoning Appeals. Mr.
I'd like to nominate for the Board of Zoning Appeals for the Bowling Green District, Mr. Joseph Pack.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
P-A-C-K.
Next, we have the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board. That is,
Pardon?
No, that's, he's on the trail.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
and actually.
They're asking for
Linda Carter's.
Linda Carter, or Carter.
Right, and they'd like to have her back again, so if, would
I'll make a
somebody like
motion that we reappoint Linda Carter.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Underwood, Reedy Church Social Services Board.
Madam Chair and board members, I'd like to nominate Mavis Terrell to serve on the Social Services Board.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. And Western Caroline,
Madam Chairman, I'd like to nominate Mr. Sean Kiger as the social service representative.
how do you spell the last name?
K-I-G-E-R.
Okay, I have a motion and a second by Mr. Thomas. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we
I'd like
have
to
one
nominate Mr.
more.
Parton for the Middle Peninsula.
Second.
Aye.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, and we thank, yes, we thank everyone for their service. Please tell everyone who agreed to serve on these committees. We can't do it without public input. Appreciate that very much. Okay, that takes us to the consent agenda. Anything anyone needs pulled or changed on this? Hearing none, do I have a motion for the consent agenda to be approved?
So moved.
I have a-
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
On the consent?
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I was talking. I do have a couple questions. I'd like to pull A, the warrants.
All right.
He's got discussion.
All right. What do I do?
Discussion.
I'll do it in
We have a
discussion.
motion to.
I'll do it in discussion.
All right, so.
I'll just do it in discussion
Any
then.
discussion?
I just have a couple questions. I don't know if someone from the fire, on page 34, there was a Frank's Truck and Auto. I was just wondering what that expense was. Page 34 of the warrants, is there anyone there that can answer this? Or?
It's a fire and rescue. Frank's Truck. Unfortunately, chiefs in South Dakota, checking over it.
How much was it? It was almost 5,000. Okay.
We can get the
Yeah,
invoice.
well-
and-
Well, don't worry about it. And then I've got
email it to you,
a-
but that's at the
yeah.
file cabinet. That's all in the file cabinet
Okay.
back at work.
I do actually have one for the sheriff's office, I guess. Maybe they can address page 70, Hall Auto for 6,000 repair. Major Mosier.
Major
Major
Mosier. On your warrants, Mr. Black has a question.
There
The
was a-
$6,000, is
a
that for a
$6,000
new car?
$6,000 charge to, it's on page 70. I was just looking at $6,000 for motor vehicles and equipment. I was wondering what that was all about.
It says it's radio communications of
Yeah.
Virginia.
Oh, I'm sure that's, if it's radio communications, it's the installation of the new radios and stuff in the cars that are coming in now.
I got you. Okay.
The cars
Thank you.
y'all ordered some time
All right.
ago are now coming in and they're getting all installed.
All right. Thank you.
The Hall
Major, was that for all or just one?
Automotive,
Excuse me?
Hall Automotive for 22K?
Yeah, that's a car. Yeah, that's who had the state contract, that's who we bought the cars from.
And then one last thing on page, it's not you, it's page 53. Page 53, there was the payment to street sweepers. Can we get an update from them? Is there a possibility to get an update from them as to what's their that's all I'm asking for, is an update at the next board meeting or something as far as what their plan is and how they're going to do the summer as far as what rivers and so forth.
I'm meeting with them tomorrow, so I'll ask about that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parton. That's it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Consent agenda is adopted. All right, we're going to take a 15-minute break and be back here at 7:30 for public comment period. All right. All right, well, apparently clocks are wrong. It's 7:24 now. Let's take a 10-minute break and meet back here at 7:35. Thank you. Since we have a quorum, we're going to go ahead and start our public comment section. Anyone who would like to speak on any topic that is not a public hearing tonight may come up at this time. We ask that you keep your comments to about 3 minutes. And anyone who has anything they'd like to speak on tonight, other than public hearings, may come forward.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
Hi.
Mr. Chairman.
If you could please state your name.
Yes, ma'am. Bobby Thomas,
Thank you. And your voting district?
Reedy Church.
Reedy Church.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you for having me.
Bobby Thomas?
Yes, sir.
We're probably related.
Could be, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We look alike.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You got hair where I don't. I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Yes, my name is Bobby Thomas, and I'm the current president of the Caroline County Little League. I'd like to start by once again thanking the Board of Supervisors for approving last year's contribution to the Little League, and I'd especially like to thank Vice Chairman Forehand, Supervisor Black, and Supervisor Seeley for taking time out of their weekend to join us on their opening day to celebrate the beginning of baseball season in Caroline County. It was great to have you there with us, and we hope you enjoyed the games and festivities as much as we did. This season, we have just over 325 children registered for baseball and softball. This is the highest number of registered players that we've had since 2012. One of our strategies to help increase our number of players was to lower costs to the younger players, And we also went out on a softball development campaign during the off-season to try to make our softball program stronger and make it more appealing to the young ladies of Caroline. We will continue to try different means and methods to grow the Little League, but I think we are on the right track. Baseball and softball has always been strong in the county, but we aim to make it stronger. By attracting more players to participate at the younger age, we hope those players will have a great experience and want to come back to play and grow year after year. With more players comes more teams, and with more teams comes more demand for fields. Currently, we have 5 regulation fields and 1 T-ball field. Out of the 6 fields, we only have lights on 2 of them. This is where we need help from the county. I've been on the board of directors for 5 years now, and I've witnessed the hard work of our board members. Our Little League depends solely on volunteers, fundraising, small business sponsorships, and once in a while, a corporate donor. We have asked very little from the county over the years, and we provide a great service to the children of the county. We struggle every season to get the required games played that Little League International requires each district to play because of the lack of lights. In fact, this year already we've had to move games from an unlit field to a lighted field once that game was over so that they could finish their game and meet the minimum requirements of an official game. Oftentimes, this is done during school nights. We constantly struggle with scheduled games, especially out-of-county games that are required by the older divisions. Last season, we had teams playing double headers on top of double headers in order to get the required games in, and it simply wore everyone out, players especially. But that's what it took in order to qualify for the All-Star Tournament. Myself, our treasurer, Diane Luck, and a representative from Musco Incorporated met recently. Musco is the primary supplier of athletic field lighting. We discussed the different options for our park. A local contractor has been kind enough to donate their time and labor to install the lighting for us. Of course, we will have to pay for materials that they will supply, but the labor will be donated. Even with the installation donated, we are still looking at a cost of $62,000 for lighting 1 field. Our goal was to be able to install lights on 2 more fields by next season, but with their operating cost each season, this just cannot happen without help from the county. We are asking the Board of Supervisors to consider contributing $20,000 to supplement our lighting initiative. We have battled hard these last few years to pay a much-needed concession stand renovation and a building addition that was needed after our old office trailer was damaged in a storm. If we don't get lights on more fields soon, we will continue with the struggle of unsafe play due to low light conditions, scheduling conflicts, and extended seasons. Other little leagues in our district like King William County, Richmond County, and Northumberland County have parks that were and are paid for by their county. In fact, Richmond County just paid for lights to be installed at their Little League park this year. We will continue to keep baseball and softball alive in the county independently, the way we have since 1977, but we would greatly appreciate anything that the county can help us with. $20,000 would mean a great deal to the baseball and softball community and would help make our fields much safer and more versatile for all. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? Anyone else that would like to speak? Good evening, Dr.
Good
Parker.
evening, Madam Chair. George Parker, Madison District. I would like to say that I'm not going to hash out any figures in the short time that I have to speak. What I wanted to speak to is pretty much the level that you're at and the level the school board is at, which is how do we fund a school division in Caroline County and make it a progressive school district? It's very important that we target our strategic plan. And I know we presented a strategic plan, which is a 5-year plan for growing our school division and making it competitive in this regional market. We're competing not only for resources, but now, we're also competing for children, when you think about it. I was just pointing a figure out on page 9 of a demographic report that you'll receive in the near future that shows that a higher percentage of students are choosing private school over public school. Page 9 of that report. And I'll point you to that in advance. Almost doubled over the past 5 to 6 years. Now, that's ADM going right out, those are dollars going right out of the door. Every time a student chooses to be homeschooled, every time a student chooses a private school. And when you think about a parent who's willing to pay $10,000 to put a student in a private school, I think that parent would be willing to pay for a 5 or 6 cents tax increase to improve the public education in the county. We have a vested interest to improve Caroline County Public Schools, and I just want to make sure that if you're not invested in the strategic plan, then that's the speaking point that both boards need to get on. That's where we need to go first. Because we have determined a clear path. and a strategic avenue to improve the school division. And if we're going to have a common ground, that is where the common ground needs to be. The other thing I just want to say is I went to a session today and the author of this book, The Toddler Brain, was speaking. And I learned so much in an hour session with this lady on how adolescents or pre-K students or students that are between the ages of 1 to 5 learn. In the first 18 months, if their vocabulary is developed, okay, better than another kid, that's a determinant of them getting to a 3rd grade reading level. So the higher their vocabulary is in their first 18 months of life, 85% of an adolescent's brain is developed in the first 5 years of life. 85%. Now, the reason I say that is because I have 24 years in education. I have a PhD in education and educational leadership. I've been a teacher. I've been a principal. I've been a central office administrator, and I'm still learning about education, which means that one of the things that's constant in education is change. We can't think from a static mindset when we talk about building a strong school division. We can't get it back to when the Generation Xers or other generations attended school. Education will continue to change as we educate millennials, as we educate whoever the millennials will become, their children. You'll continue to see that based on current research, based on theory and practice, education will continue to change. Our world is changing. So let's not be static in our mindset in terms of what we need to do to build a strong school division. And that's all I want to say, Madam Chair. Let's start with the strategic plan.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? Hearing no other public comments, public comment section is closed. That brings us to our first public hearing tonight. Ms. Partner, you taking this?
Madam Chair, members of the board, just going to introduce Craig Reed from Fred Transit System, who's going to make a presentation regarding the proposed route changes. And other Fred staff are here to help answer questions at the conclusion of the presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Fred Transit appreciates the opportunity to appear tonight to describe the proposed changes to our bus service in Caroline County and to hear from the public on those proposed changes. In addition to any verbal comments received this evening, the public has the opportunity to provide written comments directly to Fred Transit until May 31st. All comments received will be shared with the county board and considered in finalizing the proposed route changes. Fred has served Caroline County since 2002. Service has expanded, contracted, been restructured over the years as we have gained a better understanding of the transportation needs of the county's citizens, as economic and other activities have evolved, and as budget challenges have waxed and waned. Currently, service to the county consists of 2 routes, C1 and C2, both originating and terminating at Fred Central, 1400 Jefferson Davis Highway, Fredericksburg. The C1 serves Bowling Green, Carmel Church, and Ladysmith by way of Tidewater Trail, Route 2 and 17. Weekday service begins at Fred Central, proceeds south on the Tidewater Trail to the Community Center just south of Bowling Green. From the Community Center, the route returns to Bowling Green and travels to Carmel Church via Route 207 and then north on Route 1 to Ladysmith. The bus continues to circulate between Ladysmith and the Community Center before returning to Fred Central at noon daily. This pattern then repeats for the afternoon service beginning at 1:30 p.m. and ending the day at 7:30 p.m. at Fred Central. The C2 service currently operates along the Route 1 corridor between Fred Central and the Travelers Row Shopping Center at Ladysmith. Service consists of 4 trips, 2 between 7 a.m. and 9:30 a.m., and 2 more between 4 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. The C1 and C2 are coordinated, permitting riders to transfer to Travelers Row Shopping Center and return to Fred Central by way of Route 1 4 times daily. Unfortunately, notwithstanding the adjustments that Fred has made to the county routes in the past, Fred ridership in the county has declined in recent years. This downward trend has affected transit agencies throughout Virginia and indeed much of the country. In an effort to improve ridership and the efficiency of our operations, Fred, the Fredericksburg Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the county have collaborated to propose restructuring how Fred serves the county to ensure that the funds dedicated to supporting transit services in the county bring the greatest benefit to the community. The proposed changes would consolidate the two existing routes into a single route that focuses service between the population centers of Thornburg, Ladysmith, Carmel Church, and Bowling Green along Route 1 towards Spotsylvania and Fredericksburg. Fred's current operations between the city of Fredericksburg and the county along the Tidewater Trail would be discontinued. The proposed route continues to provide county residents with access to primary employment, shopping, medical, and recreational activities within the community. It simplifies and strengthens service to provide county travelers with an hourly connection to all other Fred routes throughout the entire Fred service area. In addition, the restructured service will, for the first time, afford Northern Virginia-bound commuters with morning and evening connections to the Spotsylvania VRE station. The restructured route will operate continuously from 4 a.m. to 8:15 p.m. Monday through Friday between the major Fred transfer point at Stop 26 in the Lees Hill Center and the Bowling Green Community Center. We'll maintain hourly service between the principal population centers in the county. It will continue to provide access to employment, shopping, and medical facilities throughout the region. The restructured route will serve the same stops between the community center and the Lees Hill Center as the previous route, plus adds additional stops at the VRE station and the commuter park and ride lots. This will be accomplished retaining the same fare of $1.25 boarding for all services, and will leave unchanged the total number of hours that Fred operates within the county, and hence require no increased financial contribution from the county for the upcoming fiscal year. Once Fred has analyzed the public comments on the proposed changes and finalized the route and schedule, we will mount a major outreach and marketing campaign to advise the county citizens about the changes with the objective of smoothing the transition and attracting as many new riders as possible. We will measure the performance of the restructured service and report ridership numbers to the county monthly. We're prepared to take questions from the board and the public, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. We'll open the floor to public comment, and if the board has questions after we've closed out, we'll get you back up here.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for the Fredericksburg Transit System. Anyone wishing to comment on this, please come forward. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment on this public hearing? Going once? Going twice? This public hearing is now closed. Board, do you have questions for Mr. Gray?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Would you like to come back up now, sir?
I'd like to make sure I wrote it down exactly, but I thought you said after this you would implement a major marketing campaign?
Yes, sir.
Define that, please.
We want to follow what we did similarly, I think it was last fall. We came down to some of the major venues and activities going on with the county, brought our bus down and people, handed out pamphlets and flyers. We did direct mailings to, I believe it was all county residents, and we posted flyers and bulletins and things in a number of the shopping centers and venues across the county.
Okay. I'm sure each board member has his own desire of what Fred should be, but I think I've expressed mine when you were here before. The main purpose for me is to get those people who are without their own transportation and work at, less paying jobs in the Carmel Church area and further. So you think this new route schedule will help facilitate that? Or do you think this new route schedule is more of a, commuter route since you want to connect to VRE?
No, I believe it will serve the community in general better. It's going to give longer service throughout the course of the day, plus it will give hourly service at all stops. And so I think that will be a benefit to the community and to riders, making it more convenient to get to and from employment and medical and shopping facilities.
Okay, thank you.
How much of a decline in ridership have you had over the last year?
We think it was in the order of about 10%. Ridership decline is a phenomenon, as I mentioned earlier, that has been going on nationwide. There are very few exceptions to this trend nationally, and the only ones that have sort of bucked the trend have been two large major metropolitan areas, and ironically, they're attributing their success to bucking the ridership decline was by restructuring their routes. So we're hopefully optimistic that this will increase ridership, but it's one of those things we'll wait and see.
I do understand that there are people who use Fred as their major mode of transportation. And I think we're in a little quandary here when we're looking at cost versus service. Sometimes there's an intersection and sometimes there's a wide crevice there that we need to try to close. And what we're trying to do now is trying to close that. We don't want anyone to be hurt by discontinuing Fred. By the same token, we want to maximize the investment that we have in the county. So we're looking to you as the expert to help us to maximize ridership, ensure that we're getting a return, not a profit, but a return on our investment to ensure that our citizens are able to get to and fro and maximize the efficiency.
Yes, I mean, we wholly support you in that, and that is our intent. Surveys that we've done of our ridership is very interesting in the fact that it's roughly 47% of Fred's riders have no other means of transportation when they take the bus. Many riders ride on the average 3.5 to 4 days a week. And
I
so,
want to, not to cut you
Yes,
off,
sir.
but
No.
what I want you to do for me is build a sense of urgency. And we've talked about this several times, and I just don't feel the sense of urgency on your part. And I want to support you because I know people who ride Fred and need Fred. But your sense of urgency has to be the same as mine. And when people say that they need the service, I want you to do all you can to ensure that you are of service. Okay?
Understood.
I don't want you to come talk to me tonight and we don't hear from you until we say, well, we think we need to cut Fred, because I want you to be here pleading for the folks who need your service. That's what I want from you. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. I do have a request also. I hear that there are parking areas where Fred Bus is going to stop. Will there be places that people can leave their cars if they want to drive part of the way and then go into a doctor's appointment or go shopping and come back. Will you make sure those locations and areas are on the literature you hand out? Because I think that's maybe one of the issues. People would like to get their car a break or might be able to be dropped off at a place, but they want to make sure it's a safe place or that they could actually leave a car there should they have one. So if
Yeah,
you would include that on your information, please.
Yeah, we have redesigned our schedule, and in addition to the map of the entire route, we've included 3 smaller blown-up detail maps which show the locations of those park and ride lots and how the bus will enter and exit from those lots, so folks are aware where they are.
Good. I hope they're different maps than the ones we have in our book, because I find these very hard to read. So, yeah. And I've had a request, can we have a copy of the maps that you're going, no, what? Oh, of what you read. Could we have a copy of what you read? Could you provide us with that?
Yes.
And I would like a copy of your maps that you're going to give out, just so I have them for my own information when you get them done.
Okay.
All right.
We'll do that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, you may have more data than the rest of the board. I saw in here where FAMPO is proposing we would have additional funding in 2019 and 2020.
Yes, there are funds from that are going to be coming out and released next year and every year thereafter, and we probably need to have someone from VAMPO or Paul come and explain how those funds are done, but they're hoping it's going to cut generally over the board 10% for everyone in the region, but that they can have a separate pot of money for the rural counties, since it's more expensive to operate out here, to keep our overhead lower. But that will start next year, so we'll have to see how that goes. Yes. We have one more question, sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Do we need to officially adopt these routes? And you're going to have more comment till the end of May.
Yeah, there'll be more comments. Any we receive, we will share with you. We have had discussions with county folks on the routes and the proposed changes, and we would follow up and do that again on any of the comments to see if there's any last-minute changes or adjustments we need to make to the routes.
I understand. Does the board need to take official action on the route?
No.
We do not. Okay,
Nothing
good.
beyond passing and approving the budget to fund it.
Okay, very good. That's all.
Mr. Forehand.
Mr. Cully, that brings up,
Mr. Forehand has the floor, please.
oh, go ahead.
Looking at the route, the proposed single route, there's a Ladysmith Founders Park. There appears to be a loop inside of that neighborhood. There is no public lot in there. Has there been anything thought about regarding that route? We talked about it months back. It was a proposal, but it's on the paper, so just inquiring further on that.
This is inside Ladysmith Development.
Correct.
We're not aware that there's any lot there. The idea was to route the bus through there in hopes that we would attract some additional ridership by doing so. We were able to do that within the schedule that is set out, but there's no parking. Correct. The stop is planned to be at the library inside the development.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. Seeley.
My question is for Mr. Cully, is this currently still in the budget?
Correct. It's a carryover money. No increase. Same money we had in 18 is for 19.
So if we when we approve the budget tonight, we're approving without removing it. If we don't remove Fred from the budget, we're approving Fred funding.
Right, because they're not going to work for
I mean, this is where we didn't want to be. We were hoping, when we talked about this back in February, that we would be with the new route already so that we would have some sort of numbers, because the ridership has been on a steady decline for a number of years. I mean, your numbers are your numbers. The percentage decline has been a steady decline. And that's what brought this to attention. I mean, at least for me, we've got to make a decision in this budget, and that's my primary concern at this point is it's in the budget, and I'm not sure that I'm comfortable moving forward with that.
Mr. Singh, they have agreed that, and I believe we discussed it, that if we don't see any improvement, we can revisit it in 6 months, and that has already been discussed. Mr. Martin has discussed that. So, all right, so we don't need to make a motion? All right, any other questions?
There's no
Mr.
action. It
Black?
says action here. There's no action needed.
No action needed.
So what we're saying is if we agree to the budget, we agree to this? Did we vote on this last time? We did.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Okay, so it is on record that okay, that's fine. All right.
But the reason we had the public hearing is because Fred needed it to federal requirements to have it.
Right, whenever you change the routes, they're
Right.
required to have a budget hearing, so we needed to have that. But you guys, again, need to make sure that you get the less advantage to their job, because that's really the focus of this whole thing.
Yep.
People that are commuting in Northern Virginia probably have cars, but the guy I see every day get off at the gas station and the other one that gets off at the drugstore, they don't have jobs or cars, and they're trying to get to work and not be on social services. So if you can help, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you very much. All right. Our next public hearing is number 5. Good evening, Mr. Fincham.
Good evening. Your next public hearing is RZ 02-2018. Various Coleman's owner, MC Dean Incorporated applicant. They're requesting a rezoning from RP Rural Preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land to M1 Industrial with no specified density on tax parcel 69-A-40, which contains approximately 153 acres of land. The property is located at the intersection of Rogers Clark Boulevard and Coleman's Mill Road in the Mattaponi voting district. The proposed use is industrial. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this area as being within the Carmel Church Community Plan and designated for office industrial and heavy industrial. This is the second rezoning request for MC Dean. As the board remembers, a month ago, you approved a rezoning for MC Dean off of Dry Bridge Road on the west side of their existing development. The second rezoning is at the intersection of Coleman's Mill and Route 207 on the northeast side of their existing development in Carmel Church. If the board remembers, there was a slight shift in the direction of the focus of MC Dean. Initially, when this rezoning application was made, they intended to develop this property first. If the board will recall, we expedited the Dry Bridge Road rezoning because internally their designs and programs shifted. That became their initial focus for the expansion of their project. Does not mean that this project will not be built. It's just that this project will be secondary to the Dry Bridge Road project. This project is also designed as an industrial subdivision that, in addition to MC Dean, other suppliers or vendors to MC Dean or any other potential industrial user that they deem an appropriate fit could potentially locate on this property as well. The Planning Commission did forward this request to the board with a recommendation approval. There was one concern noted at the Planning Commission about the location of their access off of Coleman's Mill Road. The relocation of that access so as not to impact the existing residential uses has been addressed through the proffers and would be evaluated at site plan. And with that, I'll address any questions that the board may have.
Mr. Fincham, Mr. Thomas?
Mr. Fincham, I thought, I read in the overview, but I can't find it, that the building that we approved last month would not be done, or is that just the reverse?
It will not be done on this site. The building that you're referencing will be on the Dry Bridge Road and their existing property. This will be reserved for future industrial use.
Okay, so there's no planned building on this site at
That's
this
correct.
time?
Originally there was, those plans have shifted.
Okay. So they've decided to go back to the Reedy Church District instead of staying in the Mattapanai District? That's okay, that's
Madam Chair?
That's it. All right, so this one is purely for future progress. The one we did in the Reedy Church is they've decided to move the building to there, and they're going to keep going with that. Okay, and they're shaking their head yes, so thank you. Okay.
Mr. Seeley?
Right, thank you.
While we have Mr. Nelson here, the entrance, and I did read the Planning Commission's notes, is that going to be an issue from VDOT to make that entrance not adjacent or near the driveways to the residents across the road from this? Is that real doable, Mr. Nelson?
Throw him under the bus. He hasn't seen it yet. Just throw the poor man under the bus.
I'm just saying a request from us, I'm not saying specifically, but a request from us to keep it out of, is that something you guys have in your purview when you're doing these kinds of looks at site plans for approval?
I'm like totally lost right now because I'm not even aware of what you're talking about.
Okay.
Can I try to answer for Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
There's no VDOT review of this one yet.
The application was reviewed by the land use section at VDOT, so it was not directly reviewed by Mr. Nelson.
I thought Mr. Nelson looked at everything in his district. Oh, okay, I got it. I didn't know that it didn't go across your desk. I thought you had seen this because you were looking at me like, yeah, I think I got this. I just was making sure.
During the site plan review, the location of the entrance will be subject to VDOT standards, okay? If they have to make any adjustments, it's still going to have to meet VDOT standards in terms of separation distance to the intersection of Route 207, site distance at the intersection of the property with Coleman's Mill Road. So it's still going to have to meet all the VDOT standards. The original special exception showed the entrance lined up directly across from a residence on the west side of Coleman's Mill Road.
Right.
Which was a concern to those residents. They have agreed through the proffers to relocate that, still subject to VDOT review and approval, so it's not directly in front of this dwelling.
Okay. Here's the crux to my question. Is there latitude in all of that to do that?
I don't think it's been engineered at this point in time. I think that's something that will have to be evaluated at the site plan.
Okay, because we're making it a condition.
Yes.
And I'm trying to make sure it's not an impossible condition.
Understood.
Because once we're done, it's a condition, and then we're going to get to a point where can we or can't we?
Understood. It's still going to have to meet VDOT standards. Otherwise, you might potentially have residents here tonight in opposition to the approval of this rezoning.
I was just
Yeah.
trying to get out in front
Right.
of, so that everybody understood we knew it was an issue, and that we know that that's why I was, in your opinion, do you think there's latitude to move it so that we're not doing what we're actually the condition is?
I think there's latitude to redesign the entrance, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Mr. Nelson, I thought when you looked at me, I thought you were like, yeah, I've seen that. I was like, okay, maybe he has an answer. Sorry about that.
Mr. Forehand.
Mr. Fincham, on the literature here that we got, it indicates public water. There's no public water there.
It would have to be extended to the site.
Any development would require that, or?
Yes, development of
It's
that
not part of-
property.
It's not required just because it's zoned that, but it would be required for any development.
It would be required for any development to meet fire flow, et cetera, et cetera.
There was a list of exceptions from the M1, but without us knowing the list of stuff that is permitted in M1 and by special exception. I didn't see I saw some exceptions to what's permitted.
Yes, that's normally the way we handle, they proffer out the more objectionable uses in the M1 district. Hold on one second, let me. You could still have your manufacturing operations, assembly operations like they have. We have different types of manufacturing. We have things like pharmaceuticals is a permitted manufacturing use. So all those types of manufacturing uses would still be permitted under this application. Your concrete batch plants, your asphalt plants, et cetera, those are proffered out. Lumber mills, the idea that this was, I want to use the term, higher value industrial zoning, that we did not want in our discussions more basic industrial uses, that there's plenty of land already zoned M1 for those types of uses. So we try to keep it in our discussions with them more of the assembly, distribution, and some potential for manufacturing at this site.
This is what we call a cleaner manufacturing or cleaner industrial site with those proffered out. Yes.
In some respects, yes, sir.
What I didn't see, I didn't see anything regarding recyclers on that exception list. Is that permitted in M1 or?
Recycling operations in M1 really are limited to governmental type facilities. We made that change some years ago in response to some other applications in the county.
No, I was.
Salvage yards were removed from the zoning ordinance some years ago as well.
Okay.
So you're not going to see that.
So it's not a by right there.
And in some cases, it's not even permitted by special exception.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. Do we need to have the applicant come up, or can I just start the public hearing?
Yeah, there we start the public hearing.
At this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. If anyone would like to come and speak on this, please state your name, your voting district, and a time limit of 3 minutes. So if you'd like to, public hearing is now open. Is there anyone that would like to speak concerning this issue? Is there anyone that would like to speak concerning this issue other than the board? Seeing no one wishing to comment, we will call this public hearing closed. All right, gentlemen.
Madam Chairman, if there are no further questions or deliberations of the board, I'd move for RZ
Second.
Is there any discussion? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Long time no see, Mr. Fincher. We are onward to text amendment 08 through 13.
Madam Chairman, can we do, as our practice, one public hearing for all of these and
Yes,
conduct separate
please.
votes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, your next 6 public hearings, TXT 08-2017 through TXT 13-2017, all deal with the issue of chickens, or as we refer to them in the ordinance, domesticated hens. If you remember, this issue was referred to the Planning Commission at the request of Ms. Long, who had a constituent approach her about allowing chickens in a residential zoning district. The proposed text amendments, the 6 amendments create all the standards and identify the districts in which the keeping of chickens would be permitted. The TXT 08-2017 establishes definitions related to the domestic hens and the keeping of domestic hens. TXT 9 through 12 would allow these as accessory uses in the RR2, Rural Residential 2, Rural Residential 5, R1, and R2 zoning districts, those 4 residential districts. And then TXT 13-2017 would establish the development standards that would be applicable to all 4 of those districts where these would be allowed as an accessory use. If you'll recall, the board actually had 2 first readings on this, resulted in some minor changes in the regulations between the first reading and the second reading. And the amendments before you tonight are the amendments referred by the board for public hearing after your second reading on March 27th. And with that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have. And we are also looking at planned development districts.
I support that plan.
Are there any questions from the board? At this time, I will open the public hearing for comments on text amendment 08 through 13. If you'd like to speak on this issue, please come forward this time. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this issue? Anyone who'd like to speak? Seeing no one, call this public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to accept text amendment 8? Can we just go down the line? Text amendment 8?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve text amendment 08-2017.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move the adoption of
Madam-
text amendment 09-2017.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move the adoption of text amendment 10-2017.
Second.
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move the adoption of text 11-2017.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move the adoption of text 12-2017.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Move the adoption of text 13-2017.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Well done. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Thank you, Mr. Daly, Mr. Brown. Did we get them all? We got them all, right? All right. All right. That comes all the way down all right, that closes our public hearings for this evening, which takes us to unfinished business. And our first piece of unfinished business is the adoption of funds for 2018-19 budget. Mr. Cully.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I put together, at the request of several board members, some figures on where we are after our last budget work session. So this basically changes to the FY 2019 County Administrator's proposed budget. One of the things that we did to start with was school resource officers. As you remember, the sheriff asked for 4. The proposed budget had 2. The board changed to 3 full-time SROs. That is a cost of $198,746. It would be an increase of $69,869, or a total increase for FY18 from FY18 to 19 of $198,746, or 151%. If you look at public safety, sheriff's office is increasing from $4,676,197, which is $214,217, or 4.8% increase. And remember, most of that's in salaries from the approved compensation plan. Animal control is actually decreasing $5, so that helps balance things out. 911 dispatch is increasing $22,413, or 2.5. Fire rescue services, $5,426,313. That's increasing $513,559, or 10.75%. Remember, there are 3 new positions in there, plus then there was a significant, there was right much difference between the sheriff's deputies and the fire and rescue is where those salaries had to be adjusted, so it was right much more money ended up in fire and rescue versus the sheriff's office just in that. Regional corrections, which is regional jail, juvenile center, McShin, those type things, $2,119,993. That's increasing $91,542, or 4.51%. Inspections as part of public safety, $296,632, increasing $11,000 and $341, 3.98%. And in school resource officers, $330,838, and they're increasing $199,358, 151, 63%. Total public safety, $14,385,106, which is increasing $1,052,424, or 7.97%. Mrs. Long asked that I put some graphics together, so I put it with a dollar bill. So I worked on this to if you show you that little line, the sheriff gets about 13 cents of every dollar. If you took the whole budget and looked at that, fire and rescue gets 15 cents, and total public safety is about 40 cents from each local tax dollar. We moved into the school budget. The total school budget proposed by the Board of Supervisors was $46,746,443. I can't read tonight. Increasing $1,243,910, or 2.73%. State funds increased. We based our budget as we worked through that work session. I showed you the governor's budget, the House budget, and the Senate version. The middle of the road of all 3 of those was the governor's reintroduced budget. In FY18, it was $25,701,837. For FY19, it's $25,910,726. So it's FY state funds increase that we predict. Until they do the budget, who knows what it's going to be, but it's based on those three budgets, $208,889 of additional state funds. Total other funds, revenues, rebates, and refunds is increasing to $422,414, was a $49,489 or 13.27% increase in the other funds category. And then the board did authorize one-time use of Anthem funds, and I'll reiterate that a couple of times. I know it's a big point with the board. $300,000 to go toward the health insurance increase, and that is one time because once we spend that, it's not a revenue, it's just money, and it'll be gone. There'll be nothing to replace that. I know this chart's hard to see, but it is basically the breakdown of how the categories work, and you can see that from what their last request was, we're cutting $741,703. I know the schools have got the number at $770. We're off a little bit in some math, but this is the way mine works out in our actual budget. So they will have to make adjustments to those categories, either instruction, administration, attendance and health, transportation, operations, facilities, miscellaneous funds, technology, because the total amount recommended by the board for school operations fund is $42,152,862. It's a $1,181,868 more dollars, or 2.88% increase. So the schools will have to take that and come back with those adjusted to basically wash out that red $741,703. Local funds requested includes operation textbook and buses, $16,262,000, which was actually an increase of $2,335,211, or 16.77%. That was their initial request to the board. Local funds recommended $14,401,935, which is an increase of $474,523, or 3.41%. New funds for school operations, as I showed you on the previous sheet, $1,181,868, or 2.88%. Textbook fund, $423,165, is actually decreasing $34,069, or 7.45% down. But the textbook fund amount is set by the state formula, and I want to point out the county share is fully funded to the required amount. So even though that's going down, we're funding what the state says based on ADM and the state formula that goes into textbooks. Total local funds for schools, $19,826,433. That's an increase of $397,606, or 2.05%. This includes the $13,628,641 for operations, which is $400,000, or 3.02% increase, $400,000 more than current budget. Includes $5,314,998 for school debt service payments. Includes $624,327 for either purchasing new buses or new and existing lease payments for past school buses that we lease them. We still have to continue to pay for those for a number of years. And does include $109,500 for school CIP items. Includes the $148,967 for the textbook fund, which was our match as required by the state formula. Board members' concerns, these are some of the things that y'all had raised with me that you wanted to highlight. In an article from the Freelance Star on May 5th regarding the size of administration, other supervisors have raised questions about the amount Caroline schools are spending on central office and administrative staff. According to information provided by the division, there are 10 central office staff members with salaries ranging from $69,391 for the testing coordinator to $136,492 for the superintendent. A study conducted in 2016 by the Virginia Association of School Superintendents Educational Services Review Program found, based on staffing data from 2013 to 14, that there were 21 administrative positions, including principals, assistant principals, and central office support in Caroline schools, compared with between 25 and 29 in districts of comparable size. Counting principals and assistant principals, Caroline now has 25 administrative positions. The board funded the large majority of an increase in school VRS in the amount of $500,000 in FY18. We didn't fund the whole amount, but we did put $447,000 more in for FY18. In FY19, the school request for health insurance increase is $605,000. There have been questions raised, should additional Anthem escrow funds been reserved for these types of increases? Should other options, different plans or carriers been explored? A board member did ask where the Anthem funds were spent, so I put this chart in to answer those questions. The total Anthem funds were $1,983,354.31. That did come in several different checks, one for dental and I think two or more for the total Anthem health insurance. The board approved a contingency fund for construction for $1 million. MES payment to county for sewage connection was $70,000. Conversion of courtyards to functional learning spaces was $50,000. Upgrades to the breakers at MES was $33,000. At high school, replacement auditorium seating was $98,604. High school replacement auditorium stage curtains at $15,805. Media center furniture $59,210. Classroom furniture $23,680. Seal coat student parking lot $20,400. And trophy cases for the Blue Gym lobby $17,324. Capital improvement non-technology $80,623. Capital improvement technology $85,000. Non-reoccurring instruction purchase $73,044. School classification and comp study was $30,000. Staying outside of the high school building $61,000. Technology Epson Bright Link $33,000, and $27,000 went in a rainy day fund. Total spent or committed $1,832,354.31. Total Anthem funds received is that number I showed you, $1,983,354. 17 expenses charged to Anthem funds were $83,840, and $550,000 was transferred to CIP. 18 expenses to be reclassified to Anthem funds. These are all those things we got straightened out where they were spent in places we didn't anticipate. $364,756. Projected expenses to complete approved projects, $593,230. Balance available is the number we gave you at the work session, $391,526.74. Maybe.
All right, does the CHS stain outside the building? I thought the architect was going to pay for that.
These numbers came from the school. That's to stain the sides.
I thought he was supposed to pay for the whole thing.
He paid for the front where y'all changed where they changed the design. I think it would be the front of what would be the auditorium, right? But this is the rest of the side, entire building. $300,000 of that $391,526 one-time Anthem funds is in the FY19 budget to help offset the increase of the 605, which will leave a balance in the Anthem fund of $91,526. So there was, I pointed out again, $300,000 one-time funds.
And now explain to me exactly, because I want to make sure I'm right, the 600,000 Anthem increase is the employer.
Correct. That's the
share.
Employer share.
But the employee
already took
would have to pay the other 600,000, so they're already losing money because their health insurance went up.
Yeah, it's not 600 more for the employee.
It sounded like we got a different number when we were at our work session. I thought it was 6 and 6.
Yeah, I thought it was 600,000 and then almost another 400,000 for $1 million. I mean, we can go back to the tape, right, Pam? We have an audio of that.
Okay.
I remember them saying that the employee had to take 13% up, which is 161,000. All
right.
So I think. So they may have to take another 305.
Then maybe there was a misunderstanding there.
school operations funds increases, Mr. Black had asked about these to look at numbers for the previous 5 years. If you look at operations fund increase from 14 to 19, the total combined. So what I did was I kind of looked at what they got, and then I looked if you just took FY14 and moved that forward to 19 and didn't put any increases in. So they've received around $22,603,525 additional local dollars as you move through 19. So they haven't gotten all that yet, but as we adopt this budget and they move through 19. Combined local fund increase. The last one was total budget increase, so that's not all local money. That's school operations money, so that's got the state, other funds, federal funds, and local funds. Getting tired. This is the local funds. The combined total from 14 to 19 is $76,152,380, and that includes 19. And if you just did 14 and multiplied that out through 19, it would equal that to $66,900. So it's $9,252,380 additional as you move through the FY19 budget over what they received in 14. So it gives you a magnitude of the amount of local dollars, additional local dollars over those years. Mr. Thomas had asked about that. Sorry, that washed out kind of more than I wanted. It looked pretty good on my computer screen. It's the school debt service FY14 to 19. And you can see back before the loan hit for the high school in Madison, debt was down. So you can the bond referendum, you can see why that has jumped up, and that'll remain up a few years longer. Of course, we hope to refinance that to lower it a little bit. Per pupil cost over 5 years, the bottom line is the local per pupil cost, which is a little over $2,000, and the top line is the total all-in, state and other funds and everything that if you divide their budget up by their ADM. And this, if you go back, because when he asked me for this information, we had been charting it for a while, so this was a cost per pupil cost as a 13-year look, and you can see where the state really dropped some numbers back in 11, while the counties has sort of floated up and down a little bit, but has been on somewhat of a decline since increase since FY13. This is just another way to look at increase in local funds, FY14 to 19, and the 19 being the proposed 400 additional dollars. This was an interesting I was working on today to try to show the proposed local only is at the bottom. That in FY19 is different from all the other ones across there. All the other ones are state and other combined, and I didn't have time to go back and figure out what the state was and what the others were in those. But if you come over to FY19, you can see the state and then the other and then the $300,000 one-time money at the top. So you can kind of see they've got multiple things that are making up the new funds. So that's just the new funds, because the state's only $208,000. So you can see by that sort of bluish purplish color that the counties is almost double that on 19, and then the other funds is bigger than the state, and then the $300,000 on the top is bigger than the state. So the state is putting in the least amount of money for the FY19. That's kind of a trend line from 2007. It's off that same data, which I'll show you that chart real quick, and we're not going to read all the numbers. So if you go back to 7, the trend line looks like we're growing in ADM, but this trend line supports what Dr. Parker said earlier with his comments that we're sort of losing students. If you look at the 5-year trend line, it's going the other way. So that's just a look-see at ADM, and you can see we were just 14, we were up at right at 4190, and we're budgeted down at 4150 now, 4155. And I'm not going to begin to read you this chart, but I'll be glad to share it with you. This is we actually have this data back for the 13-year look, but this is just the 5-year look. I thought it's one of the interesting things is you can see that we are putting in, of the total increase of the school operations, we're at about 40%, which is above, our ability to pay, 30.34 composite index number. So we have been putting in maybe not as much as everybody would like, but we're definitely putting in more than what we're required to. And another thing, if you look on the very right-hand side, you can see the total cost per pupil and county cost per pupil, and you can see percent increases in those down to, with the proposed budget, the total per county cost per pupil has risen almost 19% over that five-year period. And part of that is the declining ADM makes that number worse. So you're putting in more money and the ADM's down, you're going to get that percentage higher. So I mean, it's easy to see how that is. If you had an increasing ADM, that would be going the other way. Same dollar bill, total school operations is 40 cents out of every local tax dollar we raise. Total local funds to schools is, so that's everything, all in debt and everything is 55 cents of every dollar. Local schools funds to schools is equal to 38.89% of general fund expenditures, 92.66% of total real estate revenue. So that's sort of a big number when you think about how much we raise in real estate, and 55% of our total property tax revenues. This is all funds and broken across that same dollar bill. You can see the slice to the left is us, the general government administration. There's that $14,530,000. Public safety is the next. Public works is another little sliver. Health and welfare is in there next. Education is the whole middle. Capital projects is another sliver. Non-departmental is that pretty good size. The public utilities is down there, and then all others are the far end. So it kind of gives you a visual of where all the funds for the budget sort of end up as a comparison to each other. And one that we normally include in our budget written document is where the revenues come from. So you can see general property tax is about 37%, and the next largest is state revenue. And this is across all funds, so that's a big state revenue is mostly schools. So you can see that those are our two big chunks. One thing to notice, our transfer from balance and fund reserves is 2% of budget. Federal revenue 6%, other revenue 5%, other local taxes is 8%, permits and licenses is 1%, charges for services 5%. So it's pretty much where we get all of the revenue to make things work. Budget major fund, general fund $50,987,312 is increasing $1,580,407 or 3.20%. The debt retirement fund, as we went over in budget, the public hearing, is actually decreasing $195,365 or 2.13%. Utility funds increasing $238,412 up to $6,326,545. School fund $46,747,555 is increasing $1,245,022 or 2.74. So I've sort of been over most of all those numbers again. Transfer from the fund balance needed to balance general fund budgets $104,241. It's increasing $58,730 or 2.87% over current year. And with that, I am finished unless you have any questions.
Mr. Forehand.
This does not include the proposed water sewer increases, correct?
No, Davenport's still working on all of those issues. And one of the things that we're looking at is different ways that we can get a separate fee, service district fee type of thing incorporated into Caroline Pines and into our other systems that are separate off of the main system.
Okay. So those are tied together, and we won't have an answer on the rates until we have an answer for the capital fee.
Correct. Capital fee, capital asset fee, and all that, but kind of all tied together, and Courtney's working on that.
Is the plan to have that worked out before July 1?
Yes. But we'll still have to have public hearing on all that stuff. So it may not, I don't know that it'll go in effect before.
And we don't necessarily have to have it effective July 1. We've done things that were effective in the middle of the year.
not affected. Okay.
Mr. Thomas, did you have anything else you would like
I was
to
just
say?
trying to help Mr. Forehand make sure he understood we didn't have to raise the rates on the Carolina water system.
Anyone else have any comments? Any questions for Mr. Cully?
Mr. Cully? One, I know the sheriff and Major Mosier's here. I know the sheriff has 3 new SRO positions. If those don't get hired by September, do we have an option to get, or they don't get filled, do we have an option to put in school security officers or something like that?
They make a school security officer program, but those are employees of the school. And so you would have to remove the money from the resource and put it in the school budget.
Okay. I'm just trying to make sure we have coverage.
They're not armed.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Fortunately for us, we have existing road officers that are interested in transferring over into the school resource officer's position, trying to honor the 2-year commitment on the road before you put them in the school. So the new positions we hire will actually go to the road, and then the more experienced officers will go into the schools.
Okay, that sounds great. You just said something that was concerning. You said trying to honor the 2-year road commitment.
Yeah, we're not required to. You know,
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
No, we're trying to, yes.
Okay, you just want to do that even though it's not a requirement.
It's certainly, you know, when the school resource officer has a community, as the school is his community, he needs some experience working the road as well, and the knowledge he would require over 2 years to handle that situation by himself without direct supervision. So, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? No? All right, thank you, Mr. Cully. Do I? Do I have a motion to approve the appropriation funds resolution that's included in your packet, or is there a discussion?
Resolution.
I was just looking for the resolution, Madam Chair.
It is on the back of the top sheet.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adopt a resolution adopting and appropriating funds for the fiscal year 2018-2019 budget as presented by the county administrator.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Takes us to the capital improvement program.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the capital improvement program is the same that was presented to the board at public hearing. We haven't really made any changes to that. The school capital improvement program is cash, so that was in funds. Everything in the county CIP is anticipated to be borrowed funds, and we would only do those projects as, you know, we consulted with the board and move forward when you're ready to do those.
Are there any other, we need a motion.
Second.
All in favor of adopting the capital improvement program as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Do we need a motion on 9, or is 9, since,
I think Mrs. Hughes wanted,
well, Mr. Emerson's made a point that we can't really do anything till January, so do we really want to?
We need to approve it so we can do all the paperwork and get all the forms ready,
ready for
collect all the,
January.
get ready for January.
I thought we'd made an arrangements to make sure it worked, or it's retroactive.
Can't by the state.
By the state.
You don't have the authority to do that.
Yeah, by the state.
Do I hear a motion to move forward with the proposed personal tax relief for qualified disabled veterans
As presented
as presented with the starting date
of January 2019,
January 1, right?
January 1, 2019, and that's the 30% rate that we talked about? 30% discount.
Tax
Yeah,
is
70%.
30%, okay.
The 30% is in the ordinance, but you'll end up actually setting the rate next year following a public hearing when you set all the other tax rates.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second. Discussion.
Discussion?
Mr. Emerson, the county has the authority and the ability to give money to any entity it so chooses. Is that not correct?
No, that's not correct.
The county can't say, here's $500 for a service to the county?
You can pay for a service that you're getting from someone under a contract, yes.
So if
But
a
you can't just give money away to anyone.
So if a veteran serves, well, this is twofold, and I'm glad you said that. A veteran serves the county, we can't say to that veteran, here's $500 or $100 for your service to the county.
He's not serving the county if he's a veteran of the United States.
Serving to the
military.
country.
And frankly, that's all irrelevant because you're setting a tax, you're setting a classification of tax under a very specific state law that allows you to set tax classifications for approximately 48 or 49 types of personal property. This is one of those classifications. In order to set that tax rate, you had to do it before the personal property tax books were closed and delivered to the treasurer this year. You can't go back next year and change this year's tax rate.
Why?
A classification. So
Why
you
not?
can't, because the law doesn't allow you to do it. So
The law says that specifically?
the law specifically says what you can do, and that's not one of the things that you can do. You could correct an incorrect assessment and give a refund to a single taxpayer or one or two whose assessment was incorrect or who overpaid their taxes. There are very specific things that you can refund taxes for. You cannot refund taxes to an entire class of taxpayer and essentially change the tax rate for the preceding year by doing that. You just don't have that authority.
All right. The second part of that is, I discussed with the superintendent about giving bonuses to teachers. So you're telling me that that wouldn't be something we could do either?
That's not a tax rate. It's a totally different thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I still say they're serving the county if they're serving the country.
Title.
All right, gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm going to vote no on this because I want it to be effective immediately, and since it's not effective immediately, I think we should do something to make it effective immediately. Mr. Emerson needs to work harder to find a way to do it.
So noted, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Black?
I vote aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Forehand? Aye. And I vote aye. Motion passes.
Are we done yet?
No.
All right, our next piece of unfinished business is a resolution to adopt a resolution authorizing the establishment of the Public Library Department.
You skipped 10B that we put
Oh.
on,
Hold on,
because we don't have it, so I don't know what it says.
I'm sorry. We're doing 10A.
Oh, I'm sorry, I checked off the wrong one, my mistake.
That's all
Getting
right.
tired here.
That's all right, we're moving this along.
Can I make a motion that we accept the library
certainly can. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
You just said I was. Yes, sir.
Well, we'd gone through all the hassle of going through a bill and going to the General Assembly. I figured we've done all that and it's been signed. We're in the breach for it.
Deputy County Administrator Alan Parton will be overseeing the library staff directly. He loves
He likes
books and loves to read, so if it's
So he's
the
moving his
perfect
office
fit-
to the library?
No.
And
but-
you live near a library too, right?
Thank you all. I would like to put on the agenda for our next meeting, or for June, I'd like to recognize the library
Board.
board
Yeah.
in June, because you got to get them all together. All right. What we added was 10B. And this was on the Vietnam plaque. An idea came to myself and to Kathy Beard from the Historic Society that if we were going to do a plaque, to do one the same size as the one that already exists for World War I and World War II, but to use the bottom section to have an area to recognize military people from the county who have died in active duty, such as Chip Mann. And it would just be a blank space. And these, we have operations and missions. They're not necessary wars, but these are still people from Caroline who serve and die. And it would be designed, the bottom would be blank until, and hopefully stay that way forever. But if the case should happen, a plaque could be added with their name and the...
Oh, the nameplate you're going to
Right,
screw in.
like it could say,
How much is it?
so so we need another $840.
So moved.
Second. Is it 800 for the Vietnam Veterans plaque and
No,
another
it's
800?
2,000 for the
This would be
veterans plaque.
one
2,000?
plaque.
2,000, one plaque total for how much?
What is 2008, do you have it?
I have the memo.
2,800? Just give me a number.
No, I'm not finished, I go part B.
So the total cost for everything that you and Kathy talked about is $6,027.
That's what she's
But
got as part B. That's the second
part
plaque.
B. The idea is, we have gotten, now wait a minute, how much do we need just for the Vietnam and the future plaque?
2,800.
2,800.
You
Right.
gave 2,000. Let me help you.
Wait a minute, can we
Let
do
me
this?
help
Can
you.
we
Let me help
put this in the packet so that we can all read it?
No, because if we don't do something, it won't be able to
You gotta
be done
at least do
before
the
Memorial
veterans
Day.
plaque, or we
So
won't have it.
the original thought for the Vietnam plaque is about $2,870, give or take, give you some room for names. But the other idea that came up was, as we moved this and we got permission from the judge to put it on the front of the historic courthouse, is that we ought to create, we talked about moving the plaque that's over on the sheriff's office.
Correct.
But it was decided in talking to the vendor and everybody to have those match, you ought to just build two new ones, one the Vietnam one, and replicate the names on the plaque over there. Leave that one over at the sheriff's office and put another one on the front of the courthouse. They would even out and look correct, and that would be another $2,800. Mounting them and installing and all, the whole total cost is $6,340 and change, $6,027. So it's about $4,700 more than what we'd already authorized, but we're doing a lot more work with that in establishing so you wouldn't want one plaque over on the sheriff's front of the building and this new one over on the front of the courthouse. And so that was the idea to do both. But if we don't at least authorize the extra $800 on the Vietnam plaque tonight, they can't build it and get it done for Memorial Day.
I understand the Vietnam plaque tonight, I don't have an issue with that, but moving the plaques,
You're not going to move the other one, you're just going to duplicate it.
I'm not sure we want to put that on the historic courthouse, though. And I think that's something that would require a little more discussion and thought.
has the judge already agreed?
Judge has approved.
Judge has
I got it
approved it.
right.
There's already one. There's already
Outside.
one
Outside?
plaque
For what?
outside on the wall.
Which one?
Loving.
There's
Loving's
there's
inside.
World War I plaque outside. It just says commemorating World War I, people who served. There's a plaque about this. So the idea was we put Vietnam, the future plaque here, and then when we had the funds, do one that would match over on the other side with the names of World War I and II. But we could do that as Part B. We do need the funds approved to get the Vietnam plaque done.
And leave it and put it on the sheriff's, on what the building the sheriff used.
No, put it on the courthouse. That's where everybody else, this is my deal, that's where everybody else is. When we were out, when the cell was out looking at the plaque at the sheriff's office, I mean, somebody came out and said, ma'am, is there a problem? Understandable with what our law enforcement's going about. Now, if you've got somebody rolling around your building, you're going to wonder what they're doing.
No.
And I just think a better place of honor is in the courthouse where we have all our programs and we have our Memorial Days. That up front is a more suitable place for those who've given their life. That's my personal opinion.
I thought there was just a connection between the use of that building during World War II and the plaques that had gone on, and we would continue that use. It may not always be the sheriff's building. It was a health department, and then it was a 4-H
So
department, and it was, so.
it's kind of like this building. It was a school, and we put the plaque out in front of the school in both schools that it was, and
But we don't have our Memorial Day services or veteran services at the sheriff's office. We have them on the courthouse green. That's my point. But whatever, if we're going to do the plaque, we need another 800 or so dollars.
I make a motion that we move forward with the with the Vietnam Veterans plaque, and then we come back and revisit and space it so that you could actually, somebody's got to do a drawing anyways, and then we can come back and do the World War I and World War II, but let's get the Vietnam plaque with the extra space done.
Second.
And this was, the extra space was for like contingency.
Right, like Desert
Okay. Somalia, whatever, anything like that. Okay, all right.
Which seems to be the stuff. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So moved.
Desktop.
For buying the water plants.
Gentlemen, Mr. Forehand will, I'm going to slip out for a second.
All right, I'm back again. Wanted to have a discussion with you all about the upcoming Smart Scale submissions that you have to have a pre-application in by June, and the official application due date is the beginning of August. So I wanted to kind of...
Mr. Nelson,
Yeah.
we're on the 6-year plan currently.
Oh, seriously? So I will just skip all the way to the bottom of my presentation and get to that part. Secondary 6-year plan is ongoing right now. So I've come to kind of talk to the county about what projects you all want to see on your secondary 6-year plan. Some of the suggestions we've talking to Mr. Fincham, maybe Dry Bridge Road improvements. In 2016, the county put forth a revenue sharing application for about $3.2 million for improvements on Dry Bridge Road. that project did not go forward, those funds were then reallocated to the Lady Smith Road project. So we still have a concept of a project on the books right now. It would take a long time to fund that project through the secondary 6-year plan, but it could be added to the plan to start funding it right now. The other option for your secondary 6-year plan are your unpaved roads. So if there are any unpaved roads that are currently state maintained in your districts that you would like to see hard surface, now's the time to discuss whether or not you want those roads added to the plan or not. The other option is the rural additions. You can use a certain percentage of your secondary 6-year plan to take in certain roadways that are private and have them upgraded and brought up to state standards to be into the state system. So at this point, we're just trying to figure out if there were any projects that the county would like to see added to the secondary 6-year plan that we can work on estimates and come back next month for the public hearing if we can agree on what projects we want to see added.
You know the one I want that I don't want to wait 6 years for, right?
I don't. What is that?
And Mike said you all had already talked.
Oh, well, we've talked, but I mean, you could look, there's lots of things I hear people want.
Caroline Village?
Yeah.
70 homes.
Come on up, Rick. So Rick is my project engineer, and he's been working diligently on estimates and trying to figure out what potential projects we could have, so.
Yeah, I did work on the estimates for the roads in Caroline Village that are currently, would need to be taken in this rural addition, and that's Mason Drive, Julianne, and a little piece of Kennedy Drive. And for, I think about $240,000, we could do them all. And the money, with the money you're getting this July 1st, money left from Durrett and Sorrel, you have that much.
I got one question, Mr. Nelson. I just talked to Mr. Fincham. Rixey Road, as he says, is a state road, and it's not paved all the way to the end. Can we look at what it would take to pave the rest of Rixey Road?
Yeah, and I mean, you all have dedicated unpaved road funds, so if we can look at using some of those funds for your unpaved roads, we can get it programmed.
It would just, I've been asked twice, and I always forget to ask you when I see you, but I just have to ask Mr. Fincham, so if we can at least get together on that, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank
We can
you.
have some numbers for the public hearing.
So you need anything else from me for my request?
I just need direction. If those are the two projects you all are talking about adding, then we can do that.
I had another one, Mr. Nelson, but it's been so long since we added a road, I need to find it, and I wasn't ready today. Can I just give it to you and copy the chair?
Yeah,
okay.
that's perfectly fine. Is it an unpaved road? Okay. I mean, the situation, we'll look at the roads, and we can discuss this during the public hearing of how you all want to prioritize those roads. And as the funding comes available, we'll do that. So if you want these roads to be first, you all set the priority, and we fund it as the money comes available.
Would this would also be available for like converting from chip and tar to asphalt?
Yeah.
So, yes and no. You can allocate money, and let's say you could create a project that you want to utilize for paving rural roads. I've done this in Stafford, have not done it in Spotsylvania, where Stafford, we've allocated money in what we call a county-wide, where if a board member calls and says, we've got all these issues on this road, can you pave it? Well, I don't have the maintenance funds, but they have allocated money out of that 6-year plan that will allow me to use that money to address their issues.
So Mr. Black's already got that money with Goose Lane.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I would have literally have used, the secondary 6-year plan money to fix that road.
Now, if we wanted, couldn't be used for any rerouting of existing roads or anything like that, just simply converting an existing non-paved road to.
So
a
here's the
paved
thing, your secondary 6-year plan is for construction of secondary roadways. So if you wanted a new roadway to be built, you could do that. It just, the amount of money, how much money are they getting per fiscal year? You're getting about $100,000 per fiscal year. So we're talking about Dry Bridge Road, that's a $3-some million project. It would be on the books for a long time before it was fully funded. So, I mean, if you've got some ideas of projects that you're looking at, we can price them out. State forces can do construction up to $600,000. After that, it has to go out for bid, and you're talking about a larger scale project.
Yes, Mr. Cully. Oh. You didn't have to start.
Mr. Nelson.
Uh-huh.
The 6-year program had always worked in the past. You had to save up a certain amount of money. So if you had a $3 million project and you're only getting $100,000, it was really infinity before you could do anything, because you couldn't do a little piece of it. You had to gain 75% to be able to do this, to go to design and do this, that, and the other, because we had some roads in another jurisdiction that needed all this work, and what little bit we got, it really became infinity. It was never going to get done.
So in actuality, for the larger projects, smart scale is where those projects should be at. So the Dry Bridge Road could be a potential smart scale project if the county elected to or wanted to use that.
No.
Okay, fine.
Dry Bridge Road would be better as a 6-year plan road, and fixing 95 and 104.
Gotcha.
And Welcome Way, where it's going to come out, where Harris Teeter will be.
That'll be on the next, what I was doing before.
Yeah, well, I figured since you said no, I want to get my piece in, and I'll be quiet. As long as we understand where we are.
And that's fine. So we just thought we'd bring it forward because I know Dry Bridge and the MC Dean had been looking at these improvements for a while. So.
Right. Right. The smart scale is we got to get Harris Teeter in and out, and whatever else goes back there. And all those trucks out there.
So those projects you all told me, if you have any more that you think of before, I guess the next meeting you all have this month will be the public hearing. So if we can have information within the next week or so of candidate projects, where we can have things prepared for that public hearing.
Very good. Well, you got mine, and you can explain to me why you don't want Dry Bridge Road done. So.
I'm not saying I don't want it done. That can be in a 6-year plan. I think the county's priority should be the smart scale project, fixing, as Mr. Nelson and I have discussed, fixing the on and off ramps at 95 and 104, but also providing as part of that whole project a better way to come out of Carmel Church Loop,
Right.
where
I agree
Harris
with
Teeter
that.
will be and all those truck stops are now. So,
I agree with that.
and
I
there's
just
more to
was
go
mixing the
behind
two
there,
sales
so.
behind-
Yeah, they're
apart,
two different pots of money, right?
budget
Yeah.
Now, which pot's got the flashing yellow lights?
Stop.
The safety one.
I needed something to stay awake, so thank you.
I know.
All right, so we will go to public
Can I-
hearing on this.
Can I add, though, the discussion I just had with him, if Dry Bridge Road is $3.2 million, and you're getting $100,000 a year, that's infinity, so that won't get done, so you might as well not have it on there. Because the road cost will increase more as you try to save money to do it than you'll ever get the money from VDOT to do it, so it'll need to either be done on smart scale or not done.
But and that's really the point. But VDOT is going through this wonderful 301, 207 corridor where they're identifying these particular locations as places to repair.
Yes, but let me be clear here that this Dry Bridge Road project is not as a result of that corridor study. This is a project that resulted out of complications that MC Dean has with maneuvering their specialty vehicles in and out of the complex along Dry Bridge Road.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Seeley, weren't you the one that talked to MC Dean about that before?
Yes, I did. As Mr. Nelson and I walked out there and played in traffic for an hour one day. But there is some work there to get trucks across the median is
Yes.
the real issue.
Yes.
Because the median between the two sets of lanes is so uneven that a truck can't cross.
Oh, well, yeah, I think we discussed that when we talked about 207 before.
Yep.
Oh, you can fix that.
Thank
I thought that was a $50 fix.
You guys got the answer.
No, it is a fix. I mean, I go by there all the time. It's maybe 10 or 15 feet difference at the most.
That's a pretty substantial
Substantial with a truck.
grade difference between two different roadways.
Yeah, that's what dirt's for.
So we can put that on as
You fill it with
a
dirt,
smart scale?
and then you go up.
How do we get that fixed? How do we get that done? What's your recommendation?
You could submit the project, I mean, like I said, the project was there before, but it was a revenue sharing project. And it was to fix two locations on Drawbridge Road, the one at 207 and the one there at Coleman's Mill. So it was two areas that were identified in that. And it was about $3.2 million total. And it probably has, because that was back in 2016, we looked at that estimate.
Didn't we talk about applying for other funds for that, though, from like an opportunity fund or something? Is Mr. Wilson down there about how to get funds to fix the road is there anything for expanding businesses for road work?
Yeah, because there was some discussion about Dean paying for some of it, too.
I believe it was, yes.
They were going to contribute some of the funds.
I believe that was going to be the match for the revenue sharing.
Right, right.
Do we have any idea, Mr. Nelson, what that'll cost?
Which part?
The Dry Bridge Road between the two highways.
Of that one part itself? I think that project was somewhere around, I think that was the higher of the two because of the grade differential. So I think that project was somewhere around $2 million. That was $2 million of the 3.2.
And you really are just going to fill dirt and then repave
No,
it?
it's a little bit more to it.
raise
You've got to
road.
tie it in. I mean, you can't, yeah. It's a little bit more that goes into it.
All right, but if it's $2 million and change and it's a revenue sharing, that's a 50-50 deal?
Yes. The revenue sharing applications are due next year. So smart scale and revenue sharing are on two different cycles. Right.
Did we do that for revenue sharing already? Didn't we put that in?
Yes.
And we got approved?
Yes.
So it's still active?
No.
Oh.
So as I said before,
You were doing really good until that last one.
Well, I mean, I didn't do it, but
No, we did it. You're correct.
We didn't do it because we were going to MC Dean. And I think when you were talking to them, they said yes. And at the last minute, they said no.
So the money was moved to Route 639.
Right.
Because you already had the existing money, so
Right.
it just transferred over there.
So we can still do another revenue sharing application, work with the actual company there, and try to come up with another solution like we did before.
Yes, you could.
Because really, the benefit is directly to a particular business for that correction. Okay.
That's a project to work on. Mr. Wilson, can you put that on your list? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Nelson, how much money is left in the revenue sharing pot?
Oh, let's see. I think it's about $150 million.
Oh. And how much of an area does that cover?
What was that?
And how big an area is that for?
The state. I mean, we were successful this year. Stafford applied, and they got revenue sharing, and Spotsylvania did also. So, I mean, we're pretty good at going after funds.
Keep our fingers crossed. All right, any other questions?
Nope, good.
So we have the understanding that the Smart Scale project will be exit 104.
Well,
We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah,
We'll go back in time here.
going back. All right, continue.
All right, so let's go back. So, to talk about Smart Scale. Smart Scale, you have to have a pre-application in by June, and then the official applications are due in August. So I guess the question I have here for you all is, what does the county want to see as applications for Smart Scale? I've thrown a couple of things up there and then some question marks, because we've got the Exit 104 improvements where I've heard people talking about, and then we just finished the Route 301, 207 corridor study. So there were some recommendations in that. And then, of course, if there's any other things you all want to look at. So for Exit 104, there's two options. This is kind of like the grandiose option, which is a diverging diamond, which is similar to the Science Crossroads interchange, and very similar to, and it's actually the same thing we're doing at Courthouse Road in Stafford County. We feel that this would work with the area. The two bridges are already there, so you've got to do some work on the ramps and the tie-ins. But this project, we're estimating, is going to be upwards of $20 million. So it's got a fairly large price tag with it. So we thought to say, well, what else can we do to try to address some of the concerns where I think a majority of the concerns that I've heard about this area in the past is the truck rollover potential from 207 to 95 southbound, where we've had trucks roll over in the tight geometry on the curve. So the next is kind of a proposal, which is kind of hard to see, but I had originally thought we would keep the loop ramp, but there's a whole lot of people in planning and engineering smarter than me, evidently, and they said that why don't we just bring everything up to the ramp and force all traffic that wants to go south across 207. So essentially you get rid of the loop, you have 2 lanes coming off 95 southbound that will head on 207 toward the truck stops. And then you have 1 lane going toward Route 1. And trucks that are going toward Route 1 coming down 207 and all other vehicles trying to go south on Route 1 will actually come to a signal, make a left, and go down the existing ramp. This will add a signal to the terminal of the ramp there. So it'll be a signal at the top of the interchange that will control traffic. We're looking at this improvement somewhere between $8 and $12 million. They're still working on narrowing down this estimate. But that would get rid of that entire loop there altogether.
In this picture, which I can't really see, the Route 1 is to the extreme left and
Yes.
Bowling Green would be the extreme right.
Yes.
So I am coming from Bowling Green and I want to go to Richmond. I am going to make a left.
This thing got a pointer on it? Yeah.
At the,
You come right
oh,
there.
you're the man.
Yep.
So we're gonna actually put a new left turn lane there
Yes.
where the median is now.
Yes. That's that black into this area. And essentially, there's some room on the bridge, and with you getting rid of a dedicated right to go around this loop, you're gaining that extra lane there.
So I could take that lane going across the bridge, and then you're going to have a light sequenced with the other
right there.
light. So if I'm going to Route 1, I'm not going to stop at either light. Nothing's flashing. But how do I make the right? Well, I see, I'm going to use the existing right.
Are you talking about coming this direction?
Yeah.
You just slide right on through that way.
Going north, I'm going to use the stuff that's not on the screen.
Yep. That stays the same.
That stays the same. This is $8 million.
8 to 12. They literally gave me this sketch earlier this week, and they're still trying to fine tune an estimate. So, I'm speaking in ranges.
And how many lanes is that coming off of the highway?
It's 3 lanes coming off the highway.
One to be a right turn, one is...
Yes, one's a right and 2 are dedicated lefts. Okay. Because you don't have much traffic going toward Route 1. So these 2 lanes here will head this direction, and you've got 1 lane here that'll go.
And that'll allow the trucks that were going south to get off and not sit there and stack up.
Yep.
Because they'll actually have a signal.
Do we know how long that lane would be for coming off?
Nah, I don't have those numbers. Like this, they literally just put the pictures on aerial.
Coming off of southbound.
You're talking about this.
Yeah,
You're trying to worry about stacking.
Stacking, right.
And his point about the signal, this is kind of similar to what we've done at Route 3. Yeah, you got it. So I know we talk about getting throughput here. When you hit this signal, you want it to be green, but there's probably going to be advanced detection back here. Right. So if this signal detects that people are there, it's going to clear this ramp because we don't want traffic backed up on 95.
That's the only
That's
question
going to be
I had.
we're not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah, and you could work that with sensors.
Yep.
Okay.
And flashing arrows.
No.
And if the flashing arrows would solve the problem with the tight radius right now.
That would fix everything because the fire and rescue folks would be there with traffic blocked up.
But I mean, this, from what I've heard from fire and rescue, state police, everybody, is that this loop has been problematic for some years that we're trying to get rid of. So the whole idea was to try to get rid of that loop.
That's a decreasing radius turn.
It's bad.
So as you're going, you got to turn more and more, and the truck drivers, depending on their load, tend to tip over because they're going too fast.
Very much so.
And even in a car, it's hard to accelerate to merge in.
Oh, it's fun.
I mean, the sheriff's office still in here? They are. But, I mean, there's a no left turn sign that's here that gets knocked down quite frequently, and when it's not there, I come across there myself. It's the easiest ramp to go down.
I've heard people use that ramp going to Richmond often, even with the sign up. I've heard that.
So those are the two exit 104 options.
I think this.
Can we put this one in?
This is a much better option. Now,
And that gives us
Yeah.
money to put in for driveways.
Big street lights to light up the intersection.
If you want to pay for them. I try to be consistent.
You don't put any lights up?
I try not to. But there are standards for lighting interchanges and intersections, and that would be looked at in the design.
All right. I think we should, do we need a motion on what we're going to do today?
No.
No, next week. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So we have definitely one, I think everybody likes.
But I just find it strange. 40 years ago, they were built like this, and then we got away from them, and we went to the cloverleafs because they were just so great. And here we are 40 years later. Now we're going back to exactly what we did 40-some years ago. That was deemed to be inadequate
It's all cyclical.
and less safe.
Do we need a vote on option 2? Because if we do,
you do have to put the application in for Smart Scale by June,
Yes.
and that just, Mr. Culler, you've done that before. You did that, or Mr. Fincham does that?
I just think we're just kind of looking for a general direction. I mean, you don't have to approve. I just want to know what you need me to be working on to fine tune for you for your applications.
I think option 2 looks like the option that's best for us right now.
and we can afford, because we're going to have to put some money in. 20 million is a big leap.
I mean, unless you
8
want
to
to pay
12
for
is
the
a
whole
lot
thing.
less.
I mean, I think you don't have to put money in.
Do you think we're going to get 20 million if we put?
No, I mean, I'm talking about for the second phase 2. I mean,
Yeah, for the second option.
yeah, I mean, it's up to you all if you want to put money, but nothing obligates you to put money in.
Aren't these based on categories, though? Don't you put them in like based on categories?
They're based on, and in your region, you got economic development and
Right.
safety as
Isn't safety like a big one, though?
it is.
This is safety.
So put it under,
Well,
because
it's
we
not-
got Ladysmith Road, didn't we get Ladysmith Road based on a whole safety?
Charlesburg,
Charlesburg Road was 100% on safety.
Yes.
Was economic.
And this is a safety plus, it's a
107
federal
is
road.
both.
What was that?
It's both. It's safety and business.
But
This
we
one's
want
really
safety
safety.
because it
Yeah,
puts us
safety
in a
gets
better
more.
category.
Well, you don't have really a choice. Your project
You
just,
score it.
it
You
scores
score it.
out based on your metrics. So if you have economic development and safety features in it, you get points for it. You don't say, I want it for safety.
Okay.
It just scores based on the merits of the information that's provided with the application.
Is there one of the two that you would recommend? I mean, from your personal, like, is one would, I mean, I
I
know
will
one's
give
more,
you, from a realistic standpoint, I think what you're trying to solve, I don't think you have an issue where you necessitate this. Right now, you've got an issue with the loop. So try to put forth the project to solve the problem that you've got.
of an option 2. Okay, that's fine.
So that's what the one we want you to fine tune.
Fine tune. I'm
Do we need a motion to say that, or you're good?
I've heard it. Yeah.
Trust me.
Okay.
I'm good.
We're batting 1,000 with you? Other localities don't like that? Let's keep it up.
I'm with you.
I want Smart Scale for
I mean,
flashing lights.
just picking one project, I think, just
Changing my
makes sense
percentage
for
then.
locality. One major, and I mean,
But
everybody benefits.
But you got to
I've
pick good
gotten-
projects, yeah.
I've gotten some
Oh, no.
pressure from BAMPO for our district to put in at least 2. I don't know what their playing odds, but what would be your second choice?
Well, I mean,
if we
it's
put
going to
in
be up to you all. I mean, I've got a couple of other things. I met with the town of Bowling Green, the mayor and the town manager yesterday, and they seem to like this option for here at Chase Street, which I told them that they would need to work with you all to discuss an application for this project. But it seemed like to me yesterday there was some momentum and enthusiasm for them to entertain this project. So this kind of works on restricting some of the access here at Chase Street, but it allows for most of the movements except for the through there. And you don't have left turns coming out. So if you want to make a left out of here, you got to come down to make the U-turn to go back down 207.
I mean, I drive this a lot, and that left turn, because that's backward. Correct. I mean, if you're going to send more people in that direction,
Well, like I said, these are kind of like graphics, so they will make sure you've got sight distance and make improvements
but
too.
see, when I talk to the VDOT folks about this, because the drainage ditch, I don't know if you've looked, but there's this huge drainage, there's a concrete abutment right between where that 301, 207 is. That's a big pit with a huge drainage tile at the bottom of it. It's like 12 or 15 feet deep. So fixing because we had this long discussion about fixing that and fixing the sight line, and they looked at me like, yeah, that would be nice, except we have this permanent structure there that would have to move.
Who was that?
Where was it? We were in your office. Remember, we had the VDOT guys come and talk about the 301 bypass. So this was during the... We were at the county office in the conference room. It was a big... I don't know if you were there or not.
Can we move on and see what his other choices are?
I'm just saying that I wasn't... This is okay, except that it comes with other issues. Yeah, the consultant was there.
Paul Prideaux. Okay.
And he told me that doing that, fixing that was like near impossible because of the structure that's there. If you're going to make the left coming out of Bowling Green to go down.
Yeah. You're talking about the structure here?
Right there. When you make that left, right in there is a huge, it's a great big, gully with cement walls with drainage tile coming into there. So fixing that was like one of my number one things, except he said he couldn't give me sight line because of the structure that was there for lanes.
It's funny because, I mean, this project was recommended out of that study as an option. There were two options. I didn't even put forward the first option because yesterday in our meeting, the town was in favor in talking to the mayor about this option. So, I mean, it's got a price tag of, I think, $1.1 million, 0.8 to $1.1 million.
But before send somebody there and look. When you look at what's there, because we had a very long discussion with the consultant about that.
Okay.
Because that was one of the things that I was looking at to fix that, because the sight line is so poor there, and there are so many accidents between those three crossovers. I mean, I can hear them get hit from my backyard.
Okay.
I'm out with the dogs, and I hear the crash, and I hear the guardrail.
We'll take a look at that to make sure we...
Because that would be great to fix, but I don't think anybody's looking at what's actually there already.
Okay.
Because we had a very long discussion about this.
Duly noted.
Can I ask a question about, the town manager called me today. They're putting in their own application?
They can. Yes. I told
So
them
it's
that
a
yesterday.
county application?
Yes.
We're not applying
Right,
for
well, that's what I
anything
mean,
unless they give us
but then it
okay.
would have to, where does that fit in the priority of what the board wants to do?
Well, that's why I told them I think they need to have a discussion with you all in regards to what they want and then get the support from the board to put in an application.
Because do you remember when we did Anderson Avenue? That was a town project, and they had to come to the county I think it was before your time, maybe. They had to come to the county to ask for us to pass it on.
The same thing will be with Town of Port Royal. If they wanted improvements, they would have to come to the county.
Now, what are you going to do to fix to the left of the screen where 301 merges with the 207 bypass?
There were some recommendations in there in the report for that. I don't have them up here, and I have them on my computer, but I can't put them up here. But I can send that stuff to you.
Because that's going to be the biggest safety issue is,
I mean, maybe that's something you want to look at. I mean, I can send you what's in the study, and if there's something in there that you want to pick up as an application, by all means, you have it's under your purview to do that.
I'm still waiting for the lines on that to be painted, by the way. Where 301 and you go down to the bypass,
I thought they restriped those already.
they weren't last week when I came through.
There's no restripe in there. I went to the dump today.
Okay.
And the sign that says Bowling Green this way, you put that up already.
I think that's already done.
All right, what else you got,
But-
Sean?
Yeah, show us your next one.
Nothing.
Oh.
I mean, it's up. I mean, I'm here to get suggestions from you all.
Well, the Bowling Green one, I was told by the consultants, was damn near impossible because of the structures that are there. So
Well, I'm going to circle back around with our district planner and the consultant, because if it's, you say damn near impossible, why is it a recommendation?
well, that's why I'm asking, because that was my discussion with them, was the sight line there is so poor, and the only way to fix it is to move a lane over into where that culvert is, which is where you'd need for the acceleration lane, and there's no way to do that.
Okay. I'll double check that.
Because both sides of the road are, I mean, that road is actually built up there.
Yeah.
So, if you get an answer, I'll even meet you there if you're going to go look, because you won't believe what's there.
Okay.
Because this was one of my priorities in that, with those consultants, and how to fix the sight line if you're going to bring more traffic there, because it's miserable.
Okay.
Well, my suggestion, board, would be for us all to go back and think about it and get some suggestions to Mr. Fincham, and we discuss this.
I mean, think about problematic areas you have. I mean, we are kind of on a short timeline because we're working on projects and sketches and estimates for the entire district. But if you've got an area that you feel is unsafe or that could stand some improvements for economic development, that's where you get your points from. as
Well,
far as
that particular term for economic development for Bowling Green is real important. But the sight line is terrible.
Does the chances of a smart scale project based on the 301-207 study would have a better chance than something that we feel needs to be? Or is it strictly
It really
viewpoint?
is going to depend. I mean, you've got a document that shows that there is a benefit based on that project, based on certain metrics. So you have that in your stance. But if you've got a safety issue and you've got data that can show that you've got a safety issue, you don't need a study for that. I mean, the proof is in the numbers.
All right.
Same thing for economic development.
Any other questions for Mr. Nelson before we let him go home? So he can go to work tomorrow.
There is one thing, I don't know if I can actually do it now.
Go ahead, give it a try.
For the Route 639 Ladysmith Road project, there's a limited access change that I need a letter of support for from
know
the
what you
board,
mean.
from the county.
You'll get that as long as you take away those flashing yellow arrows.
Say that again?
I actually laid the
That's
letter
what
and
this
the
stuff was.
schematic showing the improvements at your desk before the meeting. They need to relocate the limited access boundary at the intersection of 639 and I-95 to accommodate the new improvements at that intersection.
I still don't get it.
What's changed, or what are you seeking to change?
So essentially, we're going to be adding a turn lane at the McDonald's where the current limited access line is. So you really can't have a turn lane and be in limited access. So we need to move that limited access line back behind our improvements. This is one of those procedural things. We have to go to CTB for any limited access changes. And it's always nice to have a letter of support from the locality.
So it's just for McDonald's, it's moving McDonald's entrance down further?
It's not even moving their entrance.
Giving them full-fledged turn lanes.
Oh,
They
giving
won't
them
run
full-
You're giving them a turn lane, but what I'm saying is, as of right now, there is no pavement there. So our limited access line is actually currently right here.
Oh, I got it.
So what's the difference between limited access and right-of-way?
Limited access, you can't have any entrances. I mean, it's limited access for.
Okay. So you're not doing anything because you're going to be back on the right-of-way line?
We're moving the right-of-way line back, essentially, because you're going to have a turn lane. So I can't have limited access and allow vehicles to use the lane.
Okay.
By definition.
Yeah. And we didn't catch this until late.
It looks like this is the same thing.
I'll make a motion that we approve a letter, make a motion that we approve the letter of support for the relocation of the limited access boundary for the parcel in front of McDonald's and 639 project.
I'll second that.
Now we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yellow light.
We have a motion and a second, and I'm going to ignore the last comment. Any discussion?
My full second included.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And Mr. Nelson, question. The bridge, if I remember correctly from the public hearing, you're going to squeeze 3 lanes in that bridge, correct?
Yep.
It'll be tight.
Yep.
Far side of the bridge, any improvements as part of this
No.
project?
No. Essentially, we're just going to restrike the bridge.
How far is the third lane going to go? Is it going to be a turning lane so that the people going east can utilize the
Yes.
center lane to take a left-hand turn onto 95 North?
Yes.
And the people that are going west can use the center lane going 95 South?
Yes.
So will it be a,
A reversible, I think it
or is
is.
it going to be dedicated turn lane, they need to swap?
It's going to be dedicated. I think they're going to stripe it to differentiate between the two sides. I have to go back and look. I'll send you a sketch of what it is.
We might have to ask for a turn lane in the future, getting development on that side for 95.
It means you're going to ask for a bridge.
No,
Well,
I'm
and that
sorry.
was my question.
Turn lane going on 95 North.
From the other side.
From the
Gotcha.
other side.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Ballparkish, what's another bridge?
What's that?
Ballparkish, what's another bridge? I mean, I'm not going to hold you.
Well,
to it.
I'm saying you got to talk about how many lanes you're going to need across that bridge. So if you're talking about carrying 4 lanes across it with turn lanes, Rick, you remember how much 606?
You guys just did that, well, Hanover just did
I
it.
think it's about $20 million.
20?
I was going to guess 40, but okay.
It's about $20 million. I mean, because you got to accommodate the through lanes and the turn lanes, and a wider bridge makes for a large cost. That's how much I think the project is up at 118.
All right, I know they just did it in Hanover where they doubled the bridge
Right there at
size
54?
itself. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Nelson? Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you all.
Drive home carefully. Thank you for coming. We'll do it when we're going into place. Okay. All right, number 13, Caroline County Historic Society. Sorry to keep you guys waiting so much. Who's here for that group?
We own that building. Didn't we sell it to them for $1?
Is there anybody here? Anyone? The Caroline County Historic Society has asked the county to...
And my understanding is it doesn't give it any historical protection applying for this, so eventually if we,
Yeah, okay.
So they can, if they want to, right?
right,
Doesn't
they can
hurt,
if they
doesn't
want
matter.
to.
Yep. All right. Someone make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, adoption of a resolution declaring its intention to reimburse itself for proceeds. Do we need everybody? About that was-
I'm sure you've done these in the,
14.
previously, but, you know, when you, ultimately, we're going to borrow some money in the utilities department to pay for water systems and some of these water projects, Rappahannock River intake and those type of things. Reimbursement resolution just allows you for any of the funds we spend, like at a closing at the end of the month, those type of things, to be able to pay ourselves back, reimburse the general fund for whatever we spend up until the time we actually secure financing on the overall amount. Doesn't commit you to financing anything, just allows you to reimburse yourself if you do finance.
Any
So
questions?
moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so moved. That takes us to 15.
Do we have to do this tonight? Because it's getting late and we've got closed session. Because I have a whole bunch of markup stuff, and I'd like to talk about this, but not at.
Make a motion to
10
move
o'clock.
it to our next meeting.
I'll make a motion, we move it to a meeting where there's a lesser agenda. I'm not sure next meeting is going to be a lesser agenda. I mean,
Is this something that we can do? It doesn't have to be part of it. Is this something we can do at any time?
Is there a driver here? Okay, there's a purpose behind this.
okay, what's,
I don't know that you have to do it right now. We have been in discussions with not only Walton, but with Tricord about adding additional developed lots. That's our issue, is we pretty much, Walton's down to 2 lots that they control. The rest of those are controlled by builders that, may or may not put a house on them. And Tricord's down to 12 or 16 lots that they don't have something under construction currently.
this is a misleading.
So we just felt we needed to have a discussion about what the costs are related to our the localities to the north, especially sewer connections and proffers, because of what's happened. Development costs here now are higher than they are in our neighbors, yet they can sell their lots and their houses and townhomes and all those things for more money north of us. So it's becoming a, while we don't really want to drop connection fees, but if you think about, you're not getting any next year's budget or the year after, if you put them down to what works, at least you're getting something. So that's sort of our thought. And on the proffers, it's basically a moratorium, not a do away with them forever, but if it would be something to spur somebody to develop some lots that they could market. So I'm not going to tell you nobody's going to do anything. They are looking to try to do something, but they've got to make the math work out. I do know that we work with VDOT just on the Pendleton development. There's a fair amount of money. Fincham may be able to remember because the numbers change, but I think $300 and some thousand worth of VDOT work and utility work of moving a giant water line with a cross connection that's got to be moved out of the right-of-way is another couple of $100,000. Is that correct, Mr. Shebel? So you're looking at, before they can put one more lot in that neighborhood, they've got to spend $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. So that's got to be factored back into all the lots. And so if they're going to develop them themselves, sell them to a national, which is one of the things they're looking at trying to do, to a more national company, they got to be able to make all the math work. And so if the connection fees and the proffers add all into all those costs, then they just look at it and go, well, we can't afford to do it right now, and don't do it. So then instead of getting some money coming in, we get no money coming in. We just felt that it was time that we at least talk to y'all about that, because we can see an end in buildable lots and not really making any connection fees.
But are we talking more townhouses when they talk about doing this? Because the townhouses are killing us.
Well, I don't know that.
I mean, what is, Mr. Fincham, what is their mix if they were to open up the second part of Pendleton? How many more townhouses are in there? Because the first thing everybody wants to do is they want to take what's approved and they want to add townhouses, and they're killing us. Well, these are the questions I think we need to have when we talk about this.
There's no minimum percentage in the next section. In theory, they could all be towns. In theory, they could all be single-family detached.
Then there's almost no discussion, because we can't afford any more townhouses.
You're going to have to tell me what townhouses are there.
When I first started coming to Board of Supervisors meeting, Mr. Fincham used to report how many children and how many school-age kids would be in per each dwelling, and they were telling the townhouses were 1.1 or 0.9 children per townhouse. Those numbers aren't bearing out when we built these townhouses, because we've got an average of almost 2 kids per townhouse. The load of services that we've got to provide for townhouses over single-family dwellings, and the tax rate is killing us. That's my real crux of my issue, is because I used to listen to those reports all the time. this housing development will be 200 houses, and each one will generate so much for fire and rescue, so much for schools, so much for the sheriff's office.
Yeah, what Mr. Sealy is referring to is standard multipliers. There were standard multipliers for single-family detached, townhouses, multifamily, multipliers for fire and rescue impacts, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what he was referring to when we did these big rezonings. We have these multipliers that were used to generate the potential impacts for that type of project.
And so do you all want to carry this over to another meeting for further discussion and further study? Yeah. But I don't think we're going to come up with a solution tonight because everybody's getting tired. Can we just defer this to our next meeting?
Yes, how time sensitive is this?
I can't answer that. I mean, they're working, they're looking, they've drilled, they spent a week drilling with a Maryland firm, drilling holes all over the second section and all the lots that are in the first section near where my house is. So they're working on it. Now, whether they're doing environmental, they're building houses, what I've been told, but I can't guarantee that. So,
Can we put this on the next meeting and put it like right away up front, rather than number 75 on the agenda?
Well, new business falls where?
Right. Can we, Madam Chair, can we do that? Put it right away, so that way we can have before we're exhausted.
Somehow we'll figure out, then we can have a presentation.
Yeah, well, tonight.
We'll do the best we can. How about that? Does everybody, do I need a motion to? All right, we're going to move on then. All right. All right, that's right. We don't have to talk about capital improvements because we already approved the capital improvement plan, correct? All right, okay.
The one thing we did leave off of the calendar, we had a calendar malfunction and had to recreate the calendar. We did leave off the county fair off of the June calendar. Pam, help me with when that is.
It's June 20, the week of June 20, wherever June 20 falls.
20, 21, 22, 23.
It's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
that's 20,
Saturday.
The 20th through the 23rd will be the
Right.
county fair. They moved it from July to June.
So we don't cook.
And so,
I know that's a problem. Neither will corn.
Yeah, corn will be ready.
Who needs to RSVP?
The EDA Business Appreciation Reception is next week.
Remember, there was no RSVP on the card.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, that's a Gary thing.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, it was.
I didn't
By
see
the
it.
11th. So you got time.
Well, I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Meadow event.
I'll be there.
You bring it, Ken?
Yeah. He was already invited. Anyway, that's all I have. They got closed session.
Okay, take Kathy. Yeah, two. All right,
Close
there we go.
comment.
And everyone, please remember Memorial Day celebration, 11 a.m. on the 28th of May. Our plaque dedicated and honor Vietnam veterans of the county. So, at the courthouse, yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, we do. But I mean, the ceremony's going to be at the courthouse. All right.
All right, I move that this board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the negotiation of contract exemption of sections 2.2-3711A29 of the Code of Virginia to discuss negotiations with a potential user of the, I can never pronounce it, so I wish they would change it. Jail facility, where discussion in open meeting would adversely affect the county's bargaining position or negotiating strategy. And the consultation with legal counsel and briefings by staff, exemption 2.23711A7 of the Code of Virginia, to discuss legal matters related to the litigation filed against Four Winds Campground for violations of zoning and building laws. And the name of the jail facility is Pumason.
Pumason Creek. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Gentlemen, I'm going to suggest we take a 5-minute leg stretcher and then meet in closed session. Do not talk about anything in between. Thank you all for being here. Be in touch. I have a motion to reconvene an open session.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I move that Caroline County Board of Supervisors certify to the best of each board member's knowledge that, one, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters that were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board. Need a motion to
I have a motion to accept.
So moved.
And a second. Second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Mr. Thomas, do you so certify?
I so certify, Madam Chair.
Black?
I so certify.
Mr. Sealy?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Forehand?
I so certify.
And I so certify. Now, then, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good evening.